What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 4PN Chapter 61 Whisper Fruit and Ninjutsu Experiment. The right hand flashing with electric light penetrated Eric's chest mercilessly, and the person with the ability who wanted to live forever died. After dealing with him, Nobumoto planned to search the ship for any treasures. Although the Straw Hats' funds now reached 68 million, no one would have too much money. But he was disappointed. The purpose of the fleet was probably to find people, and there was no plan to sail long distances. There were only some accompanying supplies on board. There was probably some personal money on the fallen soldier, but it was too troublesome to find them one by one, so Shin gave up the idea. Then go back. Shin jumped off the warship, stepped on the sea and ran towards the melee, thinking at the same time. Immortality sounds really tempting, but living forever alone would be too lonely. Thinking of the time he had experienced with his friends, a smile appeared on his lips. If they lived forever together, they would be able to travel to every corner of the world. It's so slow, Shin, it's time to sail, wait, I can go up by myself. Boom, it was the sound of his head colliding with the guardrail. Sure enough, let this bastard wearing a straw hat die quickly. Today's lunch was made by Chef Sanji. Although Abyss won the approval of the sweet-toothed hedgehog, she still had to consider the tastes of other people. It was just as noisy during the meal, with Nami and Abyss being the best at eating. Luffy and Shin were sitting across from each other. Zinde was always on the lookout for Luffy to grab food, and at the same time, he was thinking about how to grab food from Luffy. Next to them, Zoro and Usopp suffered unforeseen disasters and the desserts and meat in front of them always disappeared inexplicably. Sanji is also very busy. While constantly serving dishes to feed these hungry people, he also has to be constantly wary of Luffy who is snatching meat and hedgehogs who are looking for sweets. Helping Abyss stop Luffy's extended claw, while drinking the drink he just snatched from Usopp, Shin was thinking about whether to ask Abyss about the Millennium Dragon. When people asked her before, she didn't say why she was caught. In other words, she didn't want too many people to know about the existence of the Thousand-Year Dragon. Either she had a good relationship with the Thousand-Year Dragon and wanted to protect each other, or she wanted to devour the Thousand-Year Dragon. How can such a young child have the idea of immortality? Am I too dark? Shaking his head, he took the drink in front of Abyss and asked. Abyss, how did you know that a strong wind was coming? Are you also a navigator? When the warship arrived, Abyss told Nami that a strong wind was coming. At that time, the enemy did not ask any more questions. Now that they have free time, they are naturally curious about this issue. Abyss looked at the drink that was taken away angrily, and shook her head after hearing the question. She didn't have any sailing skills. The seabird told me. Seabird? Can you understand animals? No, I am a person with the whispering fruit ability and can hear the voices of animals. Abyss said with a proud face, this ability is of little help in combat, but it is also amazing for a little girl. See gay na, can you hear this? Only a fish head can listen to ghosts, stupid captain. Luffy, who had been punched, took back the big fish head angrily, placed it in front of him, and kept eye contact with the fish head, and asked with a serious face. Would you like to be eaten by me? Pretending to be close to his ears, he kept nodding his head seriously. Yeah, Suga, you are such a good fish. The fish head was eaten voluntarily, winning Luffy's good guy card, and was then stuffed into Luffy's mouth. Seeing the captain stuck by the fish head, Shin's head was full of black lines, and he gathered a water ball and handed it over, preventing the future pirate king from dying of the fish head. Speaking of which, since you can understand the voices of animals, can you understand the voices of people? No, I can't do this. Abyss, who was startled by the fish head earlier, also recovered and shook her head in disappointment after hearing this. Then think of it as an animal and ask it if it can sweeten itself. How is that possible, Orange? I heard that good knives have souls. Listen to my Wado Yimon. Don't worry about them. This fish is alive. Can you tell me where all blue is? I want it too. Please listen to this phone bug if you can let me see Kaya. Looking at the four strange-shaped things and a shining knife, Abyss looked troubled. Forget about the fish and the phone bug. Only the orange and the knife ghost could hear it. Boom. 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 Eat well, everyone. The most powerful person on the ship took down four unreliable men one by one with one punch. Behind her, Luffy quickly stuffed the roasted octopus in her hand into her mouth, curled her lips and whistled. After a noisy lunch, the melee set sail again and headed towards Battleship Island. There were no pursuers now, so there was no need to rush. Usopp came to the back deck for training as usual, although he tried to pretend to be pitiful to avoid training. A phone call from Kaya could cure his symptoms. Luffy had a new activity in the afternoon, fishing. After he caught the fish, he went to Abyss and asked her to tell her the fish's thoughts. Occasionally, he would release a few fish, but most of them were cooked by Sanji. Abyss' whole body was almost filled with shadows. The animal companions she had been chatting with just now were now dinner in the blink of an eye. Fortunately, Nami quickly intervened to stop Luffy's inhumane behavior. Zoro was doing push-ups on the deck, carrying a huge dumbbell with a spiky head sitting on it. Zoro below is doing push-ups covered in sweat, and Nobu is leisurely crossing his legs and looking at the ninjutsu scroll. I looked for the light and heavy rock technique and found it. The light and heavy rock technique, the most frequently used is third Tsuchikage, Onoki's old man, reduces the gravity of the material and reduces the weight of the material. You can use it to fly and accelerate, but the power will decrease. The learning process is not difficult. The amount of chakra is sufficient and the control is sufficient. After only 2 failures, Shin successfully used it. Earth-style light heavy rock technique, sitting cross-legged, Shin directly clapped his hands on the huge dumbbell plates under him. As the ninjutsu started, Zoro immediately felt the change in weight, lowered his head and shouted. If you come to cause trouble, you should retreat now. The lighter barbell will hit you, you bastard hedgehog, later. Sorry. Nobu withdrew the ninjutsu, and the barbell returned to its original weight. With the experience of the light and heavy rock technique, the super light and heavy rock technique is not difficult at all, it is just the size of the chakra. However, he did not try it now to experience the feeling of flying. Instead, he focused on a ninjutsu next to the light and heavy rock. The weighted rock technique is the opposite of the light and heavy rock technique. This ninjutsu is to increase the weight of objects. There is no experiment with dumbbells, otherwise it will be a mistake. Take out a kunai and put it on the dumbbell plate to control the output of chakra. Earth-style weighted rock technique. The ninjutsu was released smoothly, because the amount of chakra used was very small, and the kunai did not become much heavier. Nobu nodded with satisfaction and released the ninjutsu. A wicked smile appeared on the corner of his mouth, and his hands began to form seals quickly, directly hitting the dumbbell plates under him. Earth-style super heavy rock technique. Ah, bastard hedgehog head. Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 62 The Story of the Lost Island. Hey, I can see the island now. Let me see, it's so cool, it really looks like a warship. After most of a day's sailing, the Melee finally arrived at Abisi's hometown, Battleship Island. As expected, the residents of the island had already picked up weapons and were ready to greet them. Luffy looked at the crowd in front of him with an indifferent expression. Hey, let me ask you a question. What? Where is the barbecue restaurant on this island? Okay, don't come out and embarrass yourself. Shin covered his face and dragged Luffy to everyone, and Abis stepped forward to negotiate. Abis? Weren't you captured by Marine? I escaped, and then Luffy and the others rescued me. Although they are pirates, they are kind-hearted pirates. No pirate is kind. After all, who are these people? I am Uchiha Nobu, a ninja. I am Monkey D. Luffy, the man who will become the Pirate King. Okay, I understand. Nami covered her face and dragged the 2 reflexive idiots behind everyone. Anyway, you'd better not go home now. Marine has sent people to guard you there after he captured you, and you haven't left yet. What should we do? Just stay at my house for now. An old man wearing a hat and unable to keep his eyes open walked up. Grandpa Bogaden. Abis flew into her grandfather's arms. They seemed to have a very good relationship. The grandfather also had a smile on his face. Thank you for saving Abis. Although the reception was not good, I would like to host a banquet for you. Do you own a barbecue restaurant? Although it's not a barbecue restaurant, the buns made by Grandpa are the best on the island. No, I want to eat barbecue. Idiot Captain, sorry Grandpa, my captain doesn't know much about etiquette. Thank you for your hospitality in advance. It would be better if there were desserts. 2 idiots, Grandpa, you don't need to pay attention to them, I just want some wine. 3 idiots. Just the buns will be fine. If it's cooking, I can also help. Everyone came to the Grandpa's house. The kitchen and bedroom were 2 separate buildings. Sanji couldn't help. The fillings and other stuffs were all ready. They just needed to wrap them up and put them in the steamer to steam. That'll be fine. Grandpa Bogaden covered the steamer, and Luffy and Usopp were watching with greedy eyes. Not only did it smell fragrant, but it was also stuffed with pork. Sanji had been watching from the sidelines and saw that the bun was quite big, so he asked. How long does it take to steam this? 4 to 5 hours will do. Everyone returned to the bedroom and sat around the round table. Luffy leaned against the window in boredom, waiting for the buns to be steamed. Nami asked first. Grandpa Bogaden, do you know why Abis was captured by Marine? I don't know. Where is Abis? I'm completely unaware. Hey, didn't you say you had a reason before but didn't tell us? That's a lie to you. Hearing this, Shin cast a strange look, not to mention that he knew about the 1,000-year dragon. Ever since she met Grandpa Bogaden, Abis kept looking at Hushan. Is that where the 1,000-year dragon is? Find a chance to take a look. If Abis doesn't know, then we are completely unaware. The old man finally opened his eyes and looked at everyone with a mysterious face. After all, there is nothing on this island. If there is anything to say, it is only the long-standing legend. Legend? What? Can you tell us about it? When he heard the word, legend, Usopp immediately became interested. After all, he likes all kinds of stories. These will be the material for him to brag in the future. It is said that the residents here are the descendants of the lost island that experienced prosperity tens of thousands of years ago but eventually sank to the bottom of the sea. On the lost island lives a species called the Millennium Dragon. The grandfather's voice sounded very epic, but Abyss held her chin in despair and asked curiously.
Why Abyss? No. You'll find out later. Iskantank, the first king of the Lost Island, had 3 children, namely Bogehoots, Boge Papako, and Boge Bogaibo. One day the king said to the 3 of them.
The second generation king he has 4 children. Is the 8th generation king, he has 2 children. Then by the 217th generation, Ingrid Mowgli III had 3 children. The sky had turned gloomy, and everyone sitting around the round table had collapsed faces. Nami asked Usopp in a low voice, how long will he continue to talk? Have no idea. Zoro had fallen asleep leaning against the wall, and Sanji was lying lifelessly on the round table. Nami looked around and found that both Shin and Abyss were missing. Luffy by the window looked sleepy, got up and squinted his eyes to urinate. After he walked out of the room, he sniffed his nose and smelled a scent. Instead of going to the toilet, he went to the kitchen. The buns have been steamed, but all the buns originally made for everyone were put into one package by Abyss. I'll be there right away, Mr. Long. Hearing Luffy's footsteps, Abyss immediately hid, hiding in a corner and raising a pan, ready to knock him out when Luffy arrived. Please Luffy, don't go any further here. Pork buns, so delicious, phew. Maybe Abyss's prayer had an effect, or maybe Luffy was just too sleepy, and he fell to the ground and fell asleep before he even got anywhere. Huh, Abyss patted her chest, breathed a sigh of relief with lingering fear, put a bun on the side of Luffy's face, and then dragged the stuffed big package up the mountain. Then the 1111th generation of kings. Nami finally couldn't stand it anymore. She used Usopp's body to shield her and quietly prepared to climb out. Usopp asked. What are you going to do? Luffy hasn't come back. I'm a little worried. I'll go outside to check. So cunning, Miss Nami who slipped away quietly is so charming. Kappa. It was now close to midnight, and it was dark outside. Nami only heard the snoring, but did not see Luffy's figure. Out of trust in Luffy's fighting ability, she did not rush to look for Luffy. After listening to the story for so long, her eye had been hungry for a long time. With the help of the weak firelight in the kitchen, Nami saw a black figure lying at the door of the kitchen, and the snoring came from there. She hurriedly ran to the black shadow, and sure enough, it was the sleeping Luffy. She shook Luffy's body, and the bun on the side of his face fell into his mouth. Luffy slowly woke up while chewing the pork bun. It's all empty. This is delicious. Why do you have the nerve to say it's delicious? Have you eaten everyone's share? Ah, what did you say? Looking at Luffy's confused look, Nami was also sure that the murderer was not Luffy. After all, Luffy knew all about lying. She noticed a shallow mark on the ground, leading past the kitchen's back door into the forest. What's this? Have no idea. Where did the letter go? Have no idea. Where's Abyss? Have no idea. Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 63 Millennium Dragon and Abyss. Luffy and Nami decided to follow the traces on the ground to see if they could find Shin or Abyss. They climbed over mountains and rivers all the way, and Luffy even used a suspension bridge at a certain cliff. He didn't know how the owner of the trace got across. The two followed the traces and came to a cave in a dense forest. In the darkness, they heard an unclear quarrel. Why are you here? Of course for immortality. Ah, you are not allowed to hurt Mr. Long. Those are the voices of Shin and Abyss. Nami roughly guessed who was inside. Luffy had already entered the hole. She hurriedly followed. The forest at night was quite scary. Wait for me Luffy. Shin, Abyss, are you playing games? Shin, who pretended to be fierce, turned around in confusion. He thought that others would come looking for him, but he didn't expect that Luffy, an idiot, would actually come looking for him. Oh, Nami is following too. That's normal. What are you doing? Is that the Millennium Dragon? The scene in front of her made Nami a little confused. Behind Shin was a big package, and in front of her was Abyss who looked wary. Behind Abyss, there was a strange creature lying with blue-gray hair. Its huge body filled the entire cave. The strange thing was that a bunch of hair seemed to be burnt. The originally ferocious dragon head lost its majestic aura due to his bald head and dull eyes. The posture of lying tightly on the ground shows that this creature is close to the limit of life. This is the Millennium Dragon? Yeah. As soon as Luffy came in, he was attracted by the big package, because it was filled with pork buns, which was the biggest thing in the world. He didn't look at the environment and just started eating. Hearing Nami's exclamation, he looked up and his eyes immediately turned golden. So handsome. Do not come. Luffy stepped forward and wanted to touch him up close, but was blocked by Abyss. He pouted and muttered. So stingy, I really misjudged you. I thought you were kind-hearted pirates. Wait a minute, is there any misunderstanding? Nami tried to adjust the atmosphere and followed Abyss' line of sight to look at the innocent-looking hedgehog. Letter? Shin sighed and raised his hands in a gesture of surrender. You're kidding, Abyss. Really? Can't you understand the voices of animals? Let Mr. Long tell you. Abyss withdrew to Long Yi's side with hesitation, and activated the fruit power. She didn't know what Long Yi said, but Abyss kept nodding her head and looked at the letter with strange eyes. The letter made me feel uncomfortable, and I couldn't help but ask. Why are you looking at me like that? Long Yi said you are not a bad person, and you haven't done anything to him since you've been here for a long time. Yeah, I just said it was a joke. Long Yi also said that you should not set fireballs in the cave next time. The hair on his back has been burnt a lot. I was afraid that Mr. Long would be too cold and put a fireball to warm him up, but I didn't control the power well. Master Long also asks you to speak less. He has never seen such a talkative person. He can talk for a long time to a creature that cannot communicate. Master Long, can't you understand what I'm saying? What I said about Calabash Baby versus Gundam was pretty good. Master Long said it sucks. Visible to the naked eye, the originally proud hedgehog's mood suddenly dropped, and it seemed as if a light rain fell on his head. Seeing that the two of them had resolved their misunderstanding, Luffy eagerly climbed on Master Long's body and ran around, wanting to touch this cool creature all over his body. Master Long just looked at Luffy with half-open eyes, and Luffy gradually calmed down, as if he understood what Master Long was saying. Shuga, you want to go back to your hometown. Long Yi said that he is willing to be friends with you. He can see that you are a good person. Me, if you keep your mouth shut, oh. Nobu came over excitedly, then walked back to Nami's feet in frustration, hugging his knees and squatting down, feeling completely lost. After sending away the hedgehog who was joining in the fun, Abyss curiously asked Luffy. How do you know Master Long's wish? It depends on feeling. What an unreliable reason. Nami couldn't help complaining and patted the missing hedgehog on the head. It was an autumn day. I was picking flowers on the hillside, and there was a voice in the wind. It was a sad voice that I had never heard before. I followed the sound and found the Dragon Lord in the cave. At that time, the Dragon Lord was not energetic at all. He said he was separated from his companions. After that, I searched for the Lost Island where the dragon's lair is located alone. Although the Lost Island sank a long time ago, Master Long said it would rise again. It's almost time now, but Master Long doesn't know the specific location of the Dragon Cave. It is also old and has lost the ability to fly. Although I want to help, I have no idea where the island is. So first asked Marine who happened to be here for information, but I really asked the wrong person. They had been looking for the keel, so they arrested me at that time. What is the dragon bone? Nami asked a question in time, and the hedgehog-headed teacher thoughtfully answered. The bones of the 1,000-year dragon are said to be able to make the elixir of life. Yeah. They arrested me and asked about the 1,000-year dragon. Maybe because I brought the dragon tooth that Master Long gave me, they determined that I knew about the 1,000-year dragon. Although I know it's difficult, I really want to help Mr. Long return home. Mr. Long also said that as long as he returns to the dragon's lair, he will regain his energy. So, no matter how many years it takes, I will find the Lost Island. Yoshi, let's help you too. After listening to the story, Luffy expressed his attitude with a smile. But to find an island that doesn't exist on the map, it's still an island that has sunk. Isn't it right to make it feel more adventurous this way? Shin took over the conversation from the side, and Luffy nodded vigorously, his tone full of excitement. The legendary Lost Island. I don't know what kind of adventures are waiting for us. Alas, Nami held his forehead and sighed, but quickly cheered up again. After all, he was a navigator. Then go. I will definitely deliver you. Now that the decision has been made, Lord Long must cheer up. Luffy took a bun and handed it to Mr. Long's mouth. Come and eat. Seeing Long Yi open his mouth wide and bite Luffy's entire upper body into his mouth, Abyss then added. Master Long is a bit demented. Ha ha ha, let's eat too, I'm going to starve to death. Ignoring the tragedy, the captain walked towards the package brought by Abyss, but the package seemed a bit flat. There's not a single one left. Huh, that's a share for all of us? Shin, save me. Excuse yourself with death, you idiot captain. Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 64 Nami's sleeping cabin. I asked Shadow Clone to call everyone. They should be here soon. Shin said to everyone while eating the game he had brought. Let's take action after daylight. Nami cooled the roasted meat in his hand and handed it to Abyss. Speaking of which, what are you going to do with those marines? After slapping away Luffy's shamelessly trying to grab food, Shin looked at Abyss. Abyss's little face wrinkled up. This question was too big for a little girl like her. In the 8th branch, the only one who wants to live forever is the so-called admiral. After the incident is over, I will execute the commander there, right? Shin fed a piece of meat to Luffy, now asking the captain's opinion after all. With meat in his mouth, Luffy couldn't stop nodding. Once their commander who wanted to be immortal died, the remaining marines probably wouldn't catch the innocent Abyss. The letter received the news that Shadow Clone was disbanded. The sky was slightly bright, and everyone who stayed there fell asleep. Only the old grandfather had sleepy eyes and was still mumbling. The 2200 first-generation king. After Shadow Clone awakened Zoro and the other two, it pointed at the location of its main body and then disbanded. He didn't want to be left by the old man to listen to the story. Anyway, the traces of the package dragging are still there, not to mention Zoro, Sanji and Usopp will definitely be able to find it. Shin and others waited outside the cave for a while. They did not have a barbecue inside the cave. If they were inside the cave, they would probably be killed by the smoke. It didn't take long for Zoro and the other three to arrive yawning. Sanji ran over in a circle, knelt on one knee in front of Nami, and took over her barbecue. Ah, Princess facing the morning sun, how can I let you do such a thing? Please leave it to your knight Sanji. Just in time, there are 3 wild boars behind, please deal with them. I only cook for Nami-san, you prickly head, stop being so sentimental. I want a front leg, if only I had wine, then I want wuha. I listened to Grandpa talk about it all night. I want it all. Master Long also needs to eat something, please forgive me, brother Yuanmei. Circle eyebrows. When Sanji heard this call, he was about to get angry, but when he turned around, he found that it was Abyss who called him. His face immediately changed, and he said in a gentle tone. Give it to me. Speaking of which, who is Master Long? Follow me Usopp. Master Long is super cool. You all should go in and take a look. We ran out of spices just now. I'll pick some more and bring them back. Luffy led the 3 newcomers into the cave, and Abyss followed her to prevent them from hurting Mr. Long. Shin casually separated out a few shadow clone to collect spices, but when he turned around, he found that Nami sitting there had fallen asleep. After all, she had not slept all night. Looking at what he was wearing, including short sleeves, long pants, and sandals, Shin couldn't help but feel a headache. He had known better to bring a jacket. But the mountain man had his own clever idea and separated 2 shadow clones. With a bang, one turned into a blanket and the other turned into a pillow. On the wonderful uses of shadow clone technique and transformation technique. I made a cleaner stone platform using earth-style Tushiri wall, carried Nami over and put her on it, and at the same time covered her with a blanket and a pillow. Earth-style boundary down prison hall. The surrounding land bulged into a semicircle, trapping Nami inside. Of course, the letter did not forget to leave a vent. That'll be fine, he nodded with satisfaction, but he always felt that something was missing. Earth-style wall. There is a rectangular clod in front of the round mound. It's better not to engrave it, otherwise it will really become an epitaph. The sound of Usopp yelling came from the cave, and Shin couldn't help but feel lucky that he had made arrangements for Nami in advance, otherwise he would have been woken up. After waiting for a while, the clones found the spices, and Luffy and the others also walked out of the cave. The moment they saw the empty earth cell, Luffy was stunned for a moment, and then ran wildly to the mound. Nami. What's wrong with you Nami, idiot? This is the sleeping cabin I made for Nami. How about it? Shin stepped forward and pulled Luffy away, with an expression on his face that he was coming to compliment me. Sleep for the ghost. Don't act like Miss Nami is dead. I have the urge to pour wine on that rectangular clod of soil. You'd better give up Zoro, Sanji is about to transform. My dearest Chef Sanji, stop blabbering, you don't have a share in this barbecue. I didn't think about it for Nami. Huh, okay, I shut up. Shin squatted in front of Luffy with an aggrieved look on his face, and snatched away the bone meat that he was about to stuff into his mouth. After everyone finished eating, Sanji guarded the portion left for Nami, protecting it from being plundered by the greedy Luffy beast. But Nami's screams came from within the barrier, and Nobu quickly released Domo from the prison. I saw Nami sitting there blankly, as if she was frightened. Shadow Clone was forced to disband the moment Nami screamed. According to the memories passed down, it seems that his Shadow Clone is not a good thing. As soon as Nami opened her eyes, the 2 of them immediately released the transformation, and one of them blocked the only light transmitting port. The 2 even opened the Sharingan. As you can imagine, when Nami woke up, it was pitch black and there were 2 pairs of blood-red eyes in front of her eyes. The last 2 clones were destroyed by Nami, and she was also frightened until she saw the hedgehog-head who was about to sneak away quietly. Letter. Why are you scaring me with Shadow Clone? Please do not ascend to the original body if you act as a clone. Nani. There's a Shadow Clone in there, what did you damn spiky head do to Ms. Nami? After being beaten by a mixed team of men and women, Shin sat in front of everyone with a bruised face and said seriously. To find the lost island, we must first go to sea. How about you treat the injury first? Zoro, who had always been at odds with Shin, couldn't help but speak this time. I think I'm in good shape, but Long He's size is a big problem. I still have some trauma medicine in my bag. Usopp said sympathetically as he rummaged through his crossbody bag. Nami and Sanji are not doing anything, so we need a raft. He took the fruit from Luffy with a confused look on his face, took a bite and finally added. I fell all this myself. As long as I have a raft, I can make Mr. Long fly again. Fly. Everyone looked at him in disbelief, as if to make sure they heard correctly. Master Long's posture didn't look like he could flap his wings, let alone fly. Only Luffy's eyes lit up and he spoke excitedly. I want to fly too. That's right, fly. Letter. Seeing that Shin ignored him, Luffy ran directly in front of him and started rolling around. Alright. Shin looked at his captain helplessly, stepped forward to hug him, and said to everyone. I'll use Luffy to give a demonstration next. Earth-style super light heavy rock technique. Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 65 heading towards the east. Ah-ho, it's really flying, Luffy, who was held in Shin's arms, roared excitedly. He could usually use the fruit's ability to reach high altitudes, but this was his first time experiencing it like this. Except for the caster, the ultra-light heavy rock cannot directly affect living bodies, so it can only be carried by Shin to achieve the purpose of flying. There are a bunch of birds there, Yosi, catch them for breakfast. Seeing the flock of birds in the distance, Luffy, who was lying on his side, stretched out his arms to catch them. Shin increased his strength and held down Luffy's sinful hand. Be honest with me, I'm holding you because I'm afraid you'll mess around. And you just had breakfast, you bastard, please eat according to the time of 3 meals a day. No, I want to eat 5 meals. The hedgehog was speechless, carrying Luffy to the sky above the original position, and silently let go. It's time to get down to business, come on down. Ah! The rubber man wearing a straw hat screamed and fell down. There was no panic in his voice, but excitement. Then he hit the ground and raised countless dust. Zoro and others around him were so fascinated by the dust that they couldn't open their eyes, but they could still hear Luffy's laughter. Ha ha ha. Do it again, next time, definitely next time, it's time to get down to business. The next time Peeting's voice came from above, it was a slowly descending letter. A random wind style blew away the dust, and Shin only saw a long nose and a pair of wide eyes. Letter. Where did that long-nosed monster come from? Punch me. Ah. You double-standard hedgehog. Usopp was forced to hold down the protester. Although the others present did not say it, they wanted to experience the feeling of flying. It would be a waste of time, so Luffy just satisfied him. Let's start making the raft next. Luffy, don't worry about me. You don't want Master Long to be unable to return to his hometown, right? After appeasing the 2 problem children Luffy and Usopp, everyone began preparations to transport Master Long. Fortunately, this is a forest, and there is as much wood as you need. With the violent actions of Luffy and the 3 of them, enough wood was quickly collected. Nobumoto planned to use Zoro's knife to do some rough processing, peel the bark of the tree, and then cut it into fixed sizes. Unfortunately, Zoro strongly opposed it. The clone bought enough ropes from the village at the foot of the mountain, and everyone also prepared 4 thick wooden stakes as wheels. Finally, with Usopp's craftsmanship, a raft was made that could carry Lord Long. It should now be called a cart, after all, it had 4 wheels underneath. The 4 of them, Luffy, went in and carried Mr. Long out of the cave, then struggled to move it to the cart. The letter was divided into 3 shadow clones, occupying 3 corners of the cart, and the main body filled the last right front position. Earth-style super light heavy rock technique. The main body and the clone used ninjutsu at the same time, holding one leg of the cart with both hands, and slowly floated it with it. In order to avoid scaring the villagers, I asked Shadow Clone to drive the melee to the back of the island. You should also go there quickly. When the cart was stable, Shin shouted to the bottom. Strangely, there were no people below. Instead, Nami's voice came from the cart. There's nothing we can do, it mainly depends on the speed of the driver. Masaka. Hearing Nami's voice, Shin had a bad premonition. As expected, everyone's voices came down from above. Fadian Ban car number. Let's go. You're very capable, Hedgehog-head. From now on, the voyage of the melee will be as good as this. If I had known better than to deprive him of food, maybe it would have been faster. This is my first step to rule the skies, Captain Usopp. Please, brother ninja, except for Abyss, all you bastards, get off here. Don't use me as a means of transportation. Don't be so stingy, Shin, that's right, come on, hedgehog carrying a cart. The most I can do is go to the boat and make you some desserts. Ninja-sama, you won't be able to bear the weight of a little girl like me, right? How about making you a member of the Flying Admiral Army? A bunch of bastards, protect Abyss, let's start speeding up. Yahoo! The joys and sorrows of people are not the same as each other. The people on the cart are laughing and laughing as if they are sightseeing, while the people under the cart are full of depression, like the old scalpers pulling the cart. With Luffy and Usopp yelling along the way, the flying car finally approached the coast. Because Abyss was also on top, Shin did not let go directly at high altitude to let those bastards experience the thrill of bungee jumping. Instead, he slowly landed on the sea surface, and gently stabilized the trolley on the sea surface. After the 3 clones, the clones on the melee also disbanded. Hey, we're here so soon. Stop talking, you bastard captain. The trolley was fixed to the stern of the melee with ropes, and everyone had to face a problem next. Where do we go next? Go to the Lost Island, idiot, this location isn't even on the map. Nami punched the idiot captain, and then started to get into trouble. There was no clue at all. Do you really want to try your luck in any direction? After returning to the boat, Shin immediately lay down on the deck chair. When he heard this question, he had an idea in his mind. Zoro. Which direction do you think we should go? Why are you asking me? I'm not a navigator. Hey, trust your so-called swordsman's intuition for once, tell me quickly. If you have to say it, go to the west. Yoshi, Luffy, shall we go east? You're humiliating me, you bastard hedgehog. Although he is a road fool, he is still quite smart. Who is the road idiot? Of course he's a third-rate swordsman who can't even walk straight. I'm not talking about you, Zoro. I'm talking about a third-rate swordsman. Asshole. Nami looked at Shin and Zoro, who were punching and kicking each other, and couldn't help but hold his forehead and sigh. He then looked at Luffy who was running towards the kitchen, Sanji who was blocking the door of the kitchen, and someone with a long nose who was bragging on the phone. It's true, there's no one reliable on the ship. Big sister, big sister. What's wrong, Abyss? Master Long said he remembered it. What? Direction to the Lost Island, really? Before Nami could reply, Luffy rushed over excitedly, startling Abyss. But she still nodded and said, it seems that because Ninja Brother took Long Yi flying once, it recalled some memories. So, where is the Lost Island? Just east of Battleship Island. Huh. As expected of Zoro. Shinshin looked at a certain three-sword swordsman with teasing eyes. After all, he just said he was going to the west. Don't be verbose, I just predicted in advance that you would make everyone go in the opposite direction, so I deliberately mentioned the west. Okay, I understand, you are a hopeless road idiot. Zoro was silent, blushing and sulking with his teeth bared. Yoshi. Set sail towards the Lost Island. Oh. Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 66 Water Style White Dragon. Here, Zoro. Here, Zoro. Okay, Zoro. Zoro. Here, Zoro. Can't you just leave it to me quietly? Yellow-green CP after lunch, Shin sat at the dining table and enjoyed dessert, looking at the two people washing the dishes with a motherly smile. The melee was heading east at this time, but after a whole morning, there was still an empty sea ahead, with no trace of the island at all. Upon hearing Luffy's shouting, Shin immediately put down his desserts and rushed out, only to see Nami and the three people on the deck looking ahead in panic. The bow of the melee, where Luffy's special class seat was being swallowed up by a transparent light curtain, and one of Luffy's feet sitting in the special class seat was also swallowed up. Shin Shun stepped forward, pulled Luffy back to the front deck, protected him behind him, and at the same time separated a shadow clone to explore the way. Fortunately, it was not an area where one would die if touched. Luffy's feet were still there and he punched the captain. Shin asked. What's this? I do not know either. Luffy held his head that was hid crookedly, sat cross-legged on the deck and said a little aggrievedly. It suddenly appeared, it's amazing, idiot, you should be a little more wary next time you see something unknown. Oh, the melee was still moving forward slowly, and the shadow clone also walked out of the light curtain unharmed, nodded to indicate safety, and then disbanded on its own. As the ship moved forward, the melee was gradually swallowed up entirely, including Long Yi at the stern, as well as Nami and Usopp who had retreated behind Long Yi. Unlike the bright sun outside, although there is still sunshine inside the light curtain, it is filled with thick fog. Great, still alive, Nami and Usopp returned to the deck tremblingly, hugging each other and saying with lingering fear. Stop sighing, I heard the sound of lightning. As soon as Shin finished speaking, a storm came, and the calm sea suddenly became rough, with strong winds and occasionally lightning striking the sea ahead. What's wrong? It was noisy just now. Sanji, who popped his head out from the second floor after hearing the noise, asked in confusion. Before he could wait for the answer, Abyss, who was unsteady on her feet, fell into his arms. Nami also played the role of a navigator at this time, commanding everyone to start taking action. Sanji, send Abyss back to the cabin. Zoro, Usopp, furl the sails, the strong wind here is pushing us back. Luffy, go and hold Long Yi's cart, don't let it get lost. Shin, be prepared. As soon as you find a breakthrough, use ninjutsu to help the melee escape. Oh, everyone started to take action. Abyss wanted to accompany everyone, but she was forcefully sent to the cabin by Sanji. Zoro and Usopp worked together to furl the sails. When Luffy came to the stern of the boat, the rope connecting the cart was loosened, and he hurriedly stretched out his arms to pull the cart. Nami-san, there is light in the distance, and there is an island below. After placing Abyss, Sanji started to act as a lookout and saw the bright light and the island in the distance. Nami took the telescope and observed it, and determined that the breakthrough point was there. Letter. Give it to me. After receiving the order, Shin confirmed the position of the light, came to the stern of the ship and jumped off, reaching the sea behind the trolley. He told Luffy at the stern. Caught it, Luffy. Water-style white dragon. The sea surface below the melee swelled and climbed continuously, eventually forming a faucet made of water that stopped high above the sea surface. The sea seemed to have an extra white dragon with its upper body leaping out of the water, hunched over and looking into the distance, with the melee and the cart above the dragon's head. Are you ready? It's time to leave. With the release of chakra, the white dragon began to move forward rapidly, with only 2 punches between its originally hunched body and the sea. This is a ninjutsu adapted from the water dragon bomb. It can also be said to be an advanced version of the water dragon bomb. The original water dragon bomb can only be used to attack, but if the chakra release is increased to make the water dragon big enough, you can lift the melee up and move forward with it. Of course, this consumes a lot of chakra. In order to save chakra, the tail end of the water dragon is always connected to the sea surface. But Shin seemed to be having a little fun, with a look of excitement on his face. The current situation was not urgent and could not stop him from having fun. The environment is the ocean, the weather is stormy, what better opportunity could there be? The release of chakra gradually increased, and the dragon's head that was originally holding the melee gradually changed its shape and turned into the dragon's chin. The water under Shin's feet rose again, covering the top of the melee, and turned into a new dragon's head. The water dragon grew larger,
opened its mouth wide, and took the melee and the cart into its mouth, while Shin's position was also above the dragon's head. Nami and Usopp hugged each other on the deck, their faces pale and soulless. Zoro and Sanji also stared at the water dragon's upper jaw in shock. It was obviously made of water, but they didn't see a drop of water fall on the deck. Long Yi closed his eyes tightly. This was too exciting for an old man. Only Luffy's eyes shone with excitement. Pay attention, it's about to fly. As the dragon's head continues to climb, the tail end connected to the sea surface grows into a real dragon tail, which is completely separated from the sea surface. Yahoo! The huge water dragon swam in the storm, occasionally circling into the sky, but the melee in the dragon's mouth seemed to be equipped with stabilizers, and the people on the boat did not even feel the shaking. Luffy even stretched his arm directly, passed through the upper jaw of the water dragon, and grabbed the letter on the dragon's head. Shin immediately understood what Luffy meant, and used chakra to absorb Luffy's hand, letting him follow his outstretched arm through the water and onto his back. Quickly getting rid of the powerlessness caused by the water flow, Luffy wrapped his legs tightly around Shin's waist, opened his arms, and shouted with excitement. Rush. This is the order I am most happy to hear, Captain. Rush. The water dragon's actions became more violent, no longer anxious to go to the bright place, and danced wildly in the storm. Everything from Z-shaped to S-shaped to W-shaped was done. Maybe it's because extreme joy always brings sadness, or maybe it's because the storm can't stand it anymore. When the water dragon climbed up again, a bolt of lightning accurately struck the dragon's head. Ah! Did the boat suddenly float? Zoro frowned. At the same time as a scream came from above, the dragon's head suddenly dropped a little, allowing the melee to float in the air for a short time and avoid the thunder and lightning transmitted by the water flow. Can you still have this kind of control after being struck by lightning? Sanji pressed down his hair to cover his left eye. The thunder and lightning didn't come through, but static electricity was inevitable. The originally arrogant Beilong suddenly withered away. Without the fancy route, he steadily led the melee to the clear sea. The height also continued to decrease, until the lower jaw sank into the water, the ship and trolley came into contact with the sea, and the upper jaw part exploded, like a heavy downpour hitting it directly. Under the wash of the water, Nami and Usopp, who had lost their souls, also came back to life. They murmured. Survived. Survived. Letter. Nami instinctively rushed to the stern of the boat, trying to find a certain hedgehog to settle the score, but no letter was found. I only saw Luffy holding a humanoid Kurozumi standing on Master Long, with an anxious expression on his face as he kept shaking the Kurozumi. Kurozumi raised his right hand tremblingly, gave Luffy a thumbs up, and revealed a mouthful of shining white fang. Nice, Captain. Please forgive me for the technical skills. Ads by Bid Gear. Chapter 67 News and Enchantment of Dragon Cave. The surrounding seas are stormy, but the weather near the island is sunny. The sun shone on Zoro's face as he stood on the front deck. There was a violent storm behind him, but the wind was sunny in front of him. There seemed to be an obvious dividing line between the two completely opposite climates. And you can't see the scenery inside the light curtain at all from the outside. After entering the light curtain, the violent storm pushed the ship back. Sanji, who was also standing on the front deck, lit a cigarette and couldn't help but sigh. It's almost like nature is preventing outsiders from approaching this place. So excited. The legendary Lost Island. Luffy, who was sitting cross-legged on the special seat, raised his hands in the air and shouted, his tone full of excitement. Now everyone is still some distance away from the island. Shin Beilong did not directly send everyone to the island. As for the reason, I am a man who challenges nature. A weak voice came from the deck. Kurozumi was lying there, pointing to the sky with one hand, and said proudly. Okay, you've been struck by lightning, so just calm down a little bit. Nami reluctantly pressed the wet towel on Kurozumi's face. Fortunately, it was just a little dark outside and his body was not seriously injured. Luffy almost cried while holding him. This should be considered a punishment from God for making you so arrogant. Usopp couldn't help complaining. He took some ice cream from the kitchen and stuffed it into the mouth of the Kurozumi monster. Shin muttered while taking in the sugar. That was just an accident. Let's do it again when we get out. Absolutely not. The two of them refused at the same time. This kind of exciting experience was enough once. This time, it was because of Shin's poor condition that they didn't have a mixed doubles match. Brother with a long nose. Who has the long nose? Oh, it turns out to be Abyss. What's the matter? Can you please help me secure the cart? Give it to me. ... After Usopp connected the trolley, the melee raised its sails again and began to move towards the island. Without the obstruction of the violent storm, under the command of Nami, everyone quickly reached the island. There are many abandoned buildings and stone sculptures on the coast, which prove that people have lived here. Everyone came ashore one after another, and Kurozumi Shin was placed on Lord Long's cart. According to Mr. Long, the Dragon's Cave is on the Lost Island, and he can regain his energy after arriving at the Dragon's Cave, but now Mr. Long is still listless. Abyss was a little disappointed because she just asked Mr. Long about the reason, and Mr. Long only said, I don't know. Maybe this isn't the Lost Island. Abyss, look. Luffy had a smile on his face and pointed to the mountain in the center of the island. You can definitely see the whole island from there. That's right, it's useless just thinking about it here. Nami also encouraged. Let's go take a look. Yoshi, let's go. That guy Nami only knows how to leave physical work to men. That long nose over there, stop mumbling and push it away. Ah, Miss Nami, who is stern, is so charming. Longyi's cart is designed with 4 wheels and can move forward on land, but it will be a bit difficult if it goes uphill. Luffy and Zoro were pulling in the front, Sanji and Usopp were pushing in the back, and Nami and Abyss were walking in the front. Kurozumi Shin was also placed in the front of the trolley, of course not in the position of pulling the trolley. This time he was the passenger. With his back against Longyi's bald head, Shin rested his head with both hands with a contented look on his face, and mobilized the chakra he had finally recovered to gather into his mouth. Using the Tianwei method, he formed a small water ball in his mouth and sprayed it onto the back of Zoro in front and right. That green algae guy pulling the cart, please work harder. Asshole. You are deliberately seeking revenge, right? I am the supervisor. You don't want Abyss to be sad because she can't help Master Long, right? If you have the strength, wash your black skin as soon as possible. I can smell the burnt smell. The island leading to the top of the mountain is obviously artificially built, spiraling around the mountain and connecting to the forest on the seaside. And everyone continued to move forward along the Tiantian road, and found abandoned stone houses halfway up the mountain. These houses were connected together to form a town. Abyss also found a spinning top with a 1,000-year dragon printed on it in an abandoned farmland beside the road, and she learned good news from the bird's mouth. There is a building with a 1,000-year dragon pattern on the top of the mountain. Maybe that's the dragon's lair there. Etc. Everyone was ready to set off again, but Shin stopped everyone. What's the matter? Luffy asked doubtfully, but Shin didn't answer. He closed his eyes tightly as if he was sensing something. Zoro, carry me up. Ha, please. Seeing the serious look on the letter's face, Zoro suppressed his thoughts of questioning and stepped forward to carry Kurozumi's letter on his back. Then what? Don't tell me that you think the scooter is uncomfortable. 50 meters to the right. You can't tell the difference between left and right, you idiot. The left is farmland and the right is abandoned town. Go to the town. Stop blabbering and be careful about throwing you to the ground. Right here. Zoro carried the letter and came to an abandoned 3-story building and stopped. Luffy and the others followed them curiously. Reach forward, do you feel any resistance? Zoro stretched out his right hand and pushed forward. Although he was still some distance away from the building, he really felt resistance, as if there was a layer of membrane. There is a resistance, but what are you doing? I don't know either. What kind of answer is this? Nami couldn't help but complained. Shin got off Zoro's back, sat cross-legged on the ground, turned around and asked Luffy. Captain, can you wait for me here for a moment? Yes, but what on earth is this? Luffy curiously poked at the resistance film. Although it was dented, Luffy never broke through the resistance film. Enchantment. Isn't the barrier the kind of earth ball that blocks my light in the morning? No, that's strictly speaking earth style. I don't know the real barrier yet. Usopp stepped forward and toyed with the resistance film together with Luffy, and asked at the same time. Then who made this one in front of me? Is there a second ninja? Maybe it's me before. Ah, the friends looked at questions and didn't quite understand the answer. Shin said while restoring chakra. Have I told you about my amnesia before? Luffy and the others should know that the smoke man from Logue Town beat me up as soon as we met. He and I were good friends before, but I took action to seal his haki and gave me a haki training manual through the mouth of the smoke man. Now it seems that I was sure that I would go to Logue Town and confront the smoke man, so I specially sealed the smoke man's haki. In addition, this time, the aura of the seal is not even covered. I can feel it as long as I get a little closer. Before, I was sure that I would come here, and I was even sure that I would take this road. After hearing the letter, Usopp had a look of disgust on his face, always feeling that there was some huge conspiracy in it. Zoro and the three looked serious, and the previous letter didn't sound like a good thing. Luffy felt bored and ran back to his original position to play with Longyi and Abyss. Let me see what I hid in the barrier before. Shadow Clone Technique. Ads by Bid Gear. Chapter 68 The remaining scrolls and murals. Boom. A shadow clone appeared and dispersed all the chakra that had finally been condensed. The main body fell to the ground with a plop. If it was specially left for you, it wouldn't be designed to be unbreakable, and you would definitely be able to break it with your current level of ninjutsu. But it is necessary to be on guard against others, even if it was his former self, so Shin created a shadow clone to break the seal on his behalf. Under the gaze of everyone, Shadow Clone pressed his hand on the resistance membrane with a look of death. With the release of chakra, a semicircular barrier surrounding the 3-story building lit up. This is, Shin muttered to himself in shock, not because there was danger, but because the barrier was slowly dissipating. Although he knew it wouldn't be too difficult, it was too simple. Does that mean you just need to feel my chakra? After the barrier completely dissipated, Shadow Clone walked into the 3-story building. There was no movement at all, which meant that there was no danger inside. After everyone waited outside for a while, they saw Shadow Clone walking out safely with 4 small scrolls. One of the scrolls was the most special, as it was all red. There are some special things inside. I sent some chakra into it. There was no reaction, but it shouldn't be dangerous. Putting the scroll in front of the body, the Shadow Clone disbanded on its own. Shin also regained some strength and opened the brightest red scroll to check it out. The friends all raised their heads curiously, wanting to see what the scroll said. What? I thought it was the same as Nobu's previous ninjutsu scroll. Usopp looked disappointed. Although he couldn't learn ninjutsu, he would enjoy reading the ninjutsu recorded on the ninjutsu scroll. As this bunch of squares some kind of writing? Quote. As if afraid of being discovered by others, the red scroll was clearly written in Chinese. The first thing that caught the eye were a few large characters. Open black lens bracket. It's time for you to study the spiritualization technique. Close black lens bracket. Spiritualization technique. Kato Dan's secret technique, but what's the use of leaving the body? Nobu had no intention of learning this ninjutsu before. Although he could leave his body could not move during this period. It was too stupid. Shin took this matter to heart and prepared to go back to find an opportunity to learn, and then looked down. The 3 small scrolls are all soul sealing techniques, but they are different. Close black lens bracket. Scroll number 1 can extract the soul and seal it in the scroll for storage. Use it again to release the soul in the scroll. Close black lens bracket. Scroll number 2 adds a soul cutting function to this. Don't underestimate it. As long as you absorb the soul of an ability user, you will know how to use it. Close black lens bracket. The seal on scroll number 3 can be transferred. You can transfer it to the palm of your right hand first. This seal is prepared for someone, don't use it easily. Once the memory is restored, you will know where to use it. Close black lens bracket. The barrier here has dissipated on its own. Don't think about using resistance film to avoid danger. Close black lens bracket. There are also barriers around this island. You must not be able to feel it based on your current level, right? Ha ha ha. Close black lens bracket. The control center of the barrier is on the stone flakes. Shadow Clone's chakra is not enough. As long as you send enough chakra, you will understand what it does. Close black lens bracket. P.S. It's okay. Don't worry about amnesia. I am you. There won't be any cliché plots like body snatching. Close black lens bracket. The content recorded on the scroll ended here, but after Shin opened the scroll completely, he found a line of small words at the end. Explodes 10 seconds after fully opening. Close black lens bracket. Shin threw the explosive scroll in his hand with a dark face. Now he was sure that he had left it behind. Boom. The town, which was already in ruins, became even more dilapidated. Ah, why did it explode? Is that a trap left by the enemy? Nami and Usopp were startled by the sudden explosion and asked, covering their ears. Zoro and Sanji are also ready for battle. Shin waved his hand to indicate that it was not an enemy, and stood up with difficulty. It's not an enemy, it's just a prank at most. Then he walked into the 3-story building. In the center of the room was a round stone piece with a diameter of about 9 centimeters and a thickness of about 1 centimeter. You're a little too much. Hey, how strong was my sealing technique before? Shin stepped forward to pick up the stone flakes on the ground, but the stone flakes did not move at all, so Shin could only give up. After all, there was not much chakra that could be transported in now. He leaned down and observed the sealing technique on the stone tablet. It was another familiar 8 trigrams diagram, but it was not complete. Only the 3 hexagrams Xuan-gua, Zhen-gua and Kan-gua were retained. Feng Lei Shui. After studying for a while, Shin was ready to leave. First, he and his friends reached the suspected dragon's lair on the top of the mountain. They would recover the chakra on the way and then pick up the round stone piece after that. Zoro. Ah, come in and carry me back to the cart. Zoro cursed as he reluctantly returned to the cart carrying the letter, and everyone continued to set off towards the top of the mountain. On the way, Shin recovered the chakra honestly, and no one asked him much about what he had found. They just wanted to make sure that Shin was not in danger. With the efforts of 4 strong men, it didn't take long for everyone to arrive in front of a dome building on the top of the mountain. The door of the stone house was tightly closed, with an abstract 1,000-year-old dragon carved on it, and a small circular hole in the middle. This place doesn't look like a dragon's lair. Nami looked around and saw that this place didn't look like a place where dragons lived. How to open this door? Usopp stepped forward and knocked on the door. The only thing that looked like a key was the small round hole, but he tried it with a wooden branch and nothing happened. Yoshi, leave it to me. Luffy slapped his left hand on his right arm, preparing to force his way in aggressively. Etc. What's wrong, Abyss? Abyss took out the dragon tooth necklace hanging around her neck with a serious look on her face. The size corresponded to the small hole in the door. Nami said in surprise, is this the key? Abyss walked forward, stood on tiptoes, and raised her hands vigorously, but she soon failed. I can't reach. Ha 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 ha, you are so short. Luffy mocked mercilessly and stepped forward to take Abisa's necklace. Let me do it. Before Luffy could insert the necklace, the ground beneath everyone's feet suddenly cracked, and everyone fell off guard, along with the cart. Fortunately, this place has been abandoned for a long time, and traces of nature have invaded. Under the buffer of several tree roots, everyone is safe and sound. It's so noisy, it won't let people gather chakra. You bastard hedgehog, don't press on me. Sorry Zoro. Here it is. Shin opened his Sharingan, observed the surrounding environment, and couldn't help but complain. What kind of architectural style is this? If you insert a tower into the mountain, is the building on the top of the tower considered the spire? There is no gate to the building on the top of the mountain. The entire building is like a tower inserted into the mountain. As long as everyone looks up, they can see a damaged mural. Ads by Bid Gear. Chapter 69 The function of the round stone plate. What is this mural? Everyone looked up at the somewhat damaged mural above and struggled with its contents. Is that the Millennium Dragon? Sanji raised a question. There was a very abstract thousand-year dragon pattern on the mural. If the circular building represents this place, then the little man next to it is the ancestor of Abyss. Nami looked at the mural and said what she found. Follow the direction of the villain's worship, and there is a sign of the thousand-year dragon carved on it. That should be the real dragon's lair. Wait a minute, isn't that shape Battleship Island? Although the mural was damaged, Shin could still recognize the Christmas tree-like mountain shape on Battleship Island. But, there's nothing suspiciously like a dragon's lair there, right? It may have really sunk. It is the Lost Island after all. Impossible. Zoro and Usopp kept talking to each other, saying that the real dragon's lair might have sunk. Abyss immediately refuted, and then ran to Master Long. Don't worry Lord Long, I will definitely find the dragon's lair. Don't worry, Abyss, I will definitely find the Lost Island. Shin stepped forward and rubbed Abyss's head, and said confidently. Don't underestimate the ninja, even if it really sinks to the bottom of the sea, I can still find it. Really, real, thank you, Kurozumi ninja brother. Quote. Anyway, this is not a dragon's lair. Let's send Mr. Long out first. Shin went up to catch Luffy who was running around, and pointed to the hole above where everyone fell. Luffy, send everyone out. Oh, leave it to me. Wait, how do you send it out? Usopp had a bad premonition and took 2 steps back, but a rubber arm quickly wrapped around him, and also wrapped around other people very flexibly. Rubber delivery truck. With screams, all the members except Shin left here on Luffy's version of the flying car. Shin also recovered a lot of chakra on the way here, enough to send Master Long out. Shadow clone technique. ABC, you should also get on Master Long's carriage. Earth-style super light heavy rock technique. With the help of the main body and 3 shadow clone, the cart slowly lifted into the air and stopped steadily outside. Yoshi, it's done. After placing the cart and releasing the shadow clone, Shin heard Luffy's scream. Okay, I'll beat him later. Usopp, let's modify Mr. Long's cart first. Because we are walking down the mountain, the scooter needs a deceleration system, otherwise it will not be able to stop the car and run faster and faster. Usopp is indeed a master of craftsmanship. He used the surrounding wood and rope to create a slowdown. It's actually simple, just add a few sharp wooden stakes around the cart to increase friction with the ground. Yoshi, although you still need someone to pull you from behind, it will save you a lot of effort. Then let's go. With the newly modified cart, everyone headed down the mountain. This time, 3 strong men were pulling the cart from behind to prevent it from going too fast. The most reliable person, Sanji, was in charge of steering at the front. There was no way. Luffy was unreliable, Zoro was a roadblock, and Usopp was not strong enough, so he had to let Sanji come. Shin is still sitting on the cart quietly restoring the chakra, and the round stone tablets have not been taken away yet. Everyone stop. After arriving at the previous location, Shin called for everyone to stop temporarily. His companions looked puzzled. They didn't know about the round stone yet. Only Zoro knew something about it and asked, "Are you going to get that strange round stone?" "You're so smart. I decided it's you, green algae head. Come and carry me." When you regain your strength, just move on my own. I'm trying to save a little bit, stop talking nonsense and come on. Zoro cursed again and picked up the hedgehog, and the 2 of them came to the interior of the 3-story hut. It's right here, wait for me a moment. Getting off Zoro nimbly, Shin half knelt on the ground and placed his hand above the stone. As the chakra was delivered, his face gradually turned pale, and he finally understood the function of this thing. Are all the fog and thunderstorms outside the island controlled by this thing? Can this also be regarded as a barrier technique? By the way, who provided the chakra for this barrier before? Shin weakly picked up the stone piece, turned it over, and saw a sealing technique at the bottom. Put the Matryoshka doll here. Transporting chakra to the seal again, Shin felt this time that there was chakra inside the seal that was constantly feeding back to his body. I guess this seal was to provide energy for the barrier. There is not much chakra left. Soon it was completely fed back into Shin's body, and the seal dissipated. Shin finally got rid of the weakness he had felt since landing on the island, and immediately gathered a water ball to wrap himself up. Since landing on the island, he has been in the shape of Kurozumi who was struck by lightning, and now he can finally clean his body. Ah, it feels so much more refreshing. Zoro, come here and carry me. You have nothing important to do now, you bastard. A knife was placed on Shin's neck, Zoro said with a cold face. He had given up on it before, but now he still wants to use him. So stingy. Stop nagging. Let's go quickly. During the next journey, the letter continued to condense chakra. The words that even if the lost island sinks, it will help Abyss find it. It is not empty talk. Coupled with the reminder on the red scroll, he planned to fully restore chakra first, then learn the spiritualization technique, and use his soul state to dive into the sea to find the lost island. Don't be in a daze, Shin, we're here. Nami patted Shin's head, now that he had reached the beach. It's so magical, all the storms are gone. The island was originally surrounded by a circle of storms and dark clouds, but now they have all disappeared, causing Luffy to call it a miracle. Although he was preparing to restore chakra quietly, Shin couldn't help but wanted to show off, so he took out a round stone plate. Luffy, do a magic trick for you. What? Come, look at the disc in my hand. Did you see it glow? Now close your eyes and count to 3. The next step is to witness the miracle. Shin pointed to the sea with a confident face, and saw dark clouds gathering again where the storm had been. Although the rain had not yet fallen, sporadic lightning could already be seen. See gay. Luffy's mouth opened wide. He had never seen anyone able to control the weather. Others were also stunned. They had their eyes open and saw with their own eyes that the sky turned from clear to dark clouds in just a few seconds. Sanji took a deep breath of cigarette and said in disbelief. Can anyone really control the weather? Isn't this considered the power of God? What? It turns out you are a god, that's amazing. Luffy patted Shin's back with a smile, and Usopp quickly pulled him away. Respect the gods. It's just a little ninja ability. Put it away when you've had enough fun. We have to go sailing. As you command, Miss Nami. Ads by Bid Gear. Chapter 70 The Reborn Millennium Dragon. The Melee set sail again, heading towards Battleship Island. Since there was no storm on the road, no one needed to watch all the time. Everyone gathered in the restaurant to enjoy lunch. The rest of the journey was uneventful, and the admiral who wanted to live forever was probably still wondering why there was no trace of Abyss. Although the previous 7 warships knew that Abyss was taken away by Straw Hat's ship, they were either crippled or attacked by hypnosis, so it was impossible to know the whereabouts of the Mary. There was also a part of the Marines who stayed on the warship island and were responsible for guarding Abyss's home. At that time, everyone went directly to Grandpa Bogudan's house. They still went to the back mountain when they set sail. They had no idea that Abyss had come back. So there is no plot of Marine blocking the way here. Shin moved the deck chair to the deck, ready to study the spiritualization technique. The effect of the spiritualization technique is very interesting. It can separate a person's soul from the body. At the same time, the separated soul can be seen by outsiders. But it cannot be attacked. After all, it is a spirit body, and the caster himself can control the spirit body to enter the enemy's spiritual world to attack, or take over the enemy's body. After transforming into a spirit body, you can sense the souls of other people. This is basic, and it also has a very abstract effect. Take Luffy for example. As long as the letter remembers Luffy's soul aura, no matter where Luffy goes in the future, the letter using the spiritualization technique will be able to sense his location and reach him easily. Of course, it's just a spirit body. Come and let me try it. Spiritualization technique. With the release of the technique, Shin lay peacefully on the recliner. The biggest drawback of this technique is that the body cannot move. And Shin's spirit body floated out of his body, still glowing with light. What's this? Luffy curiously poked Shin's spirit body, but missed it and his finger penetrated directly through it. It's so amazing. Usopp also looked over and poked at it with the same curiosity. Ignoring the 2 curious ghosts, Shin's spirit body wandered around and passed through the kitchen door on the 2nd floor. This feeling of passing through objects was very strange. Shin left Wan outside the door, but Yan was inside the door. Sanji, who was washing dishes in the kitchen, was startled. Anyone who saw half of him standing at the door was terrified. Is this some new horror clone technique? No, this is a spiritual technique that can pass through objects. Yan brought Zan to the door, composed a complete letter, and said with a proud look on his face. Sanji thought of something and waved his hand with a solemn look on his face. You said passing through objects, are you imagining it? I don't know what you are thinking, but it can be worn through anything, just like this. The letter floated across the table, giving Sanji a demonstration. He took a deep drag on the cigarette and said in a low voice. Hedgehog-head. No, Shin, I want to ask you something. What? Please, teach me this ninjutsu. As long as I learn this ninjutsu, I can do many things that I couldn't do before. For example, the women's bathhouse. No, it is used to gather information, the women's bathhouse. No, it is used to find ingredients, the women's bathhouse. No, it can also be used to observe the changes in the ingredients. You bastard just want to use it for peeping, right? Nobu looked at the crazy Sanji in front of him with a speechless expression. He was not interested in any of the cool ninjutsu that he had been shown before, but he started to go crazy after reaching the spiritual transformation technique. Nami. Ah, what's wrong? Sanji wants to peek at you taking a shower. You spiky-headed bastard, stop talking nonsense. Nami-san, please listen to my explanation. Leaving the busy kitchen, Shin passed directly through the hull of the ship, came to the ocean below, and continued to dive. It's so convenient, I can't feel the water pressure at all. If we keep diving, can we travel to the other side of the planet? As long as we start from the starting point of the Grand Line and go down, the spirit body will pass through the center of the Earth and directly reach the end of the Grand Line. The spirit body quickly surfaced and returned to Shin's body. The main body was stunned for a moment and prepared to tell everyone about the underwater situation. Everyone. But now everyone gathered on the deck, looking up at the sky blankly, and Shin looked up in confusion. In the sky, countless thousand-year-old dragons gathered and circled. Different from Master Long's old posture, the feathers of these thousand-year-old dragons were more emerald green and full of vitality. In front of the melee, Warship Island can already be seen. On the Lost Island, a group of Millennium Dragons gathered. So, did Abisi's ancestors move to Battleship Island to get closer to the Millennium Dragons? Combining the murals he saw earlier and the scene before him, Shin probably guessed the truth. Boom. Nani. Undersea volcano. Don't worry, it's the Lost Island floating up. Shin saw it underwater just now. An island dozens or even hundreds of times larger than Battleship Island was floating up. As the shaking stopped, the island was revealed in its entirety. Battleship Island and the newly emerged islands were in perfect harmony. It would not be wrong to say that Battleship Island was a dragon's lair. The red circle is Battleship Island, surrounded by the rising Lost Islands, which are ridiculously big. The Millennium Dragon clan landed on the island and seemed to be resting. Fortunately, the melee stopped in a small puddle, avoiding the danger of running aground. Everyone got off the ship one after another and admired this lost island. Look carefully, there are many statues of thousand-year-old dragons on the island. It's not that Sanji is more attentive, gray and white Millennium Dragon statues of various shapes can be seen almost everywhere. These are probably the dragon bones. After sinking into the sea for thousands of years, the bodies of the dead Millennium Dragons were petrified and coral rocks accumulated, forming these statues. Legend has it that there is an elephant cemetery. Elephants will go there when they predict that they are about to die. The same may be true of the dragon lair. This is the cemetery of the thousand-year dragon, so there are so many corpses of the thousand-year dragon. Quote. Nami was talking about his speculations on the side, but not everyone had such a leisurely mind. Master Long. Master Long. Abisa's anxious shouting came to his ears, and when he heard it, Shin only saw her lying on Lord Long's body. Didn't you say that you will regain your energy after returning to the dragon's lair? This is the dragon's lair. Abisi's eyes were red because Lord Long did not cheer up. Instead, he looked even more aged and was about to die in the next second. At the last moment, Master Long looked at Luffy and roared in a low voice. Lord Long is a thousand-year-old dragon who has lost his way. It has been lonely for the past 1,000 years. It is very lucky to have met you, Abis, in the last year. This year is its happiest day. Luffy, do you understand the language of dragons? Feel it. It's so casual. Luffy rarely showed a serious look and looked at Abis who was crying, because at this time, Lord Long had completely closed his eyes. Master Long didn't lie when he said he would get better after returning to the dragon's lair. It says that the thousand-year dragon returns to its lair every 1,000 years and then resurrects. Resurrection. Right there. Luffy stretched out his hand to point out the direction for Abis, and saw a crack in a gray-white round stone, and a young Millennium Dragon broke out of its shell. It was covered with goose-yellow fluff and was roaring in a childish voice. 4 adult dragons flew over and surrounded the cub, and the little Millennium Dragon finally opened its eyes and looked in the direction of Abis. I don't know what Abisi's ability allowed her to hear, but the little girl finally stopped crying and smiled. Now Mr. Long has become his grandson. Do you have to say this in such a touching moment? Idiot. Ads by Bid Gear. Chapter 71 Rushing to the Upside Down Mountain, Shin's Dream. Goodbye everyone. Abis and Shin stood on the shore, waving goodbye to everyone, and Luffy responded by jumping on the stern of the boat. The Lost Island has sunk again, and the reborn Dragon Lord has embarked on a new journey with the Millennium Dragon clan. Also about to embark on a new journey is the melee, which has been delayed here for long enough. Sail. Let's set sail. Oh. The sails were raised, and the sheep's head sailboat carried 6 young people towards the Grand Line. Brother Ninja, do you want to stay? After bidding farewell to the melee, Abis looked curiously at the hedgehog next to her. This was the shadow clone that Shin separated. Shin shook his head and said, I'm here to help you deal with your funeral. Don't say it like I'm dead. Abis' little face bulged, and she was still a little confused. Long Yi's matter has been resolved. Is there anything else to deal with? It's your business. Don't you still have Marine guarding your home? I guess they have already conveyed the news about the Lost Island to the so-called Admiral. Let's go. Take me home, and I'll help you solve the last little trouble. Yeah, thank you, brother ninja. This is indeed a small trouble. A small branch, as long as there are no masters who can meet and smell sex, it will be useless to Shin. He first followed Abyss back home, and sure enough, there were still 2 marine soldiers guarding her. Judging from the phone bugs around them, the message must have been passed on. Without holding back, Shin knocked one of them unconscious first. The other person was about to raise his gun to fight back, but he quickly fell into Sharingan's illusion and fainted as well. But he woke up quickly. Shin tied him up and slapped him awake twice. I ask, you answer, do you understand? Marine will never give in to the evil party. Snapped. A slap in the face. What you are doing right now is not a good person. How much money does it cost a month? Stop pretending and suffer less. I don't. Shin took out a kunai and pointed it at his golden egg. Now, do you understand? Ming, understand, sir, just ask. Has the news about the Lost Island been passed on? Yes, but I was also forced. Shut up. I don't want to hear it. From which direction will the support troops come? Quote. Northwest. After 2 simple questions, this person lost his effect. Shin woke up the one who was knocked unconscious and asked again. After confirming that the information was correct, they were given a happy surprise. Taking the 2 corpses with him, Shin said goodbye to Abyss, and after arriving at the beach, he threw the corpses into the sea. Moving along the northwest, he encountered a fleet, and the ship leading it was even more magnificent. It's so ugly. I thought he would be a more handsome person. From a distance, Shin could see the admiral who was as bloated as a pig and even needed to be carried to move. Borrowing illusions and transformation technique, Shin easily got onto the ship and used the mist shinobi technique in a deserted corner of the deck. Taking advantage of the thick fog, he got rid of this fat pig admiral who wanted to live forever. The second in command on the ship had no desire to live forever, so he immediately returned to the base, and Shin followed suit. Lurking among them, he eliminated several radical marines who wanted immortality, ensured that the atmosphere of immortality in the base was completely dissipated, and then disbanded on its own. Is that the red line? Under the violent storm, Shin looked at the red line reaching the sky in surprise. Could this thing really be formed naturally? It's incredible. It's rare that you will be surprised. Sanji took a wooden barrel out of the cabin, placed it on the front deck, and called everyone to gather. This is a rare opportunity, let's have a launching ceremony. I want to find all blue. Sanji was the first to lift his feet and put them on the barrel. Luffy then spoke about his dream. I want to become the pirate king. I want the world's best swordsman. I want to draw a map of the world. I want to be a brave sea warrior. When it was Shin's turn, he was silent because he didn't have any dreams, and the most important thing was to retrieve his memory. Recalling everything he had with everyone, Shin gradually had the answer in his mind. I want to travel around the world, and if possible, I want to build a ninja village. Boom. The barrel exploded, witnessing the dreams of the 6 people. Shin silently added in his heart. I have no dreams, but I can protect the dreams of my friends. Grand line. We are coming. Luffy's loud voice passed through the rain curtain, as if it wanted to be conveyed to the whole world. Go to work. The captain in the special seat was pulled down by the ears by the navigator. Facing everyone, she said with a serious expression. We have seen the chart before, there is only one entrance to the Grand Line. It's still stormy, if we don't get to the entrance exactly. It is possible that it will hit the red line directly and the ship will be destroyed and everyone will be killed. Well, I think it would be good to use the white dragon from last time. Shin raised his hand and weakly made a suggestion. Absolutely not. As expected, Usopp and Nami strongly objected. The last incident was still fresh in their minds. Maybe this time their heads would twitch and they would want to directly control the white dragon to fly across the red line. But Usopp also remembered something else. Speaking of which, what about the disc from last time? Can't it control the weather? Shin shrugged, showing a helpless expression. That's about right. I can make this storm a little more intense. Then forget it. Usopp waved his hand with a look of disgust. Leave it to me. Who is the navigator on this ship? Of course it's Unami-san. Upside Down Mountain is the entrance to countless dream-seeking pirates, but it is also full of dangers. There are a total of 5 waterways on the mountain, 4 of which are X-shaped and are the entrances to the 4 seas. The water flows from bottom to the top of the mountain. Then it leads to the last waterway, flowing to the Grand Line. Every year, I don't know how many pirate ships sink here due to small mistakes, but fortunately, the navigators of the melee are definitely top-notch. Under the command of Nami, the melee boarded the upwelling current without any danger and headed towards the top of the mountain. Brush. With the momentum of going upstream, the melee reached the end of the upwelling current and rushed into the sky. Hey, something's not right, is it too much? We will fall down the mountain if this continues. I come. Water-style white dragon. The white dragon formed by the water flow appeared again, steering the melee to the correct river channel, and then dived into the water and disappeared. Seeing Shin's move, Nami and Usopp both looked horrified and prepared to ascend to heaven, but they didn't expect to be so calm this time. After all these twists and turns, the ship, loaded with the dreams of 6 people, rushed towards the Grand Line. Luffy sat in the special seat, raised his hands in the air, and shouted loudly. One Piece. I'm determined. Ads by Bid Gear. Chapter 72 The Old Man with a Funny Mentality. Is there a tunnel at the entrance to the Grand Line? Nami rubbed his eyes and said a little confused. Usopp was still immersed in the excitement of entering the Great Grand Line. After hearing this, he walked to the front deck and said casually. What are you talking about, Nami? The entrance must be a bright avenue full of adventure. Wait, that's a damn whale mouth. Through the clouds and mist, Sharingan, who was convinced, could see that it was not a ghost tunnel at all, but a whale with its mouth wide open. It looks like fun. Luffy in the special seat showed excitement. He didn't expect that Grand Line would be so exciting when he first arrived. Let's go in and have an adventure. Don't be stupid, that body type is no joke. Sanji immediately rejected the idiot captain's whimsical idea. Hedgehog-headed, use your ninjutsu to think of a solution. Zoro also looked devastated. It was true that he wanted to become the strongest swordsman, but this kind of enemy was obviously beyond the limit. I'm thinking about it, don't rush me. Shin quickly formed seals with his hands, separated 3 shadow clone just in case, and used water style at the same time. Water style white dragon. The water dragon appeared quietly and held the melee on its head. Different from the majestic appearance of the previous 2 times, this time the water dragon even looked a little wretched. There is a gap there. Let's go through there. Nami snatched Usopp's telescope and pointed the direction for the water dragon. Following the current, the water dragon swam sneakily to the direction directed by Nami, and finally avoided the big mouth. Luffy, who was held down by Zoro and Sanji, felt a little regretful, while Nami and Usopp both breathed a sigh of relief. Wait a minute, what does this look mean? The water dragon passed by the side of the big whale, and everyone could see an eye bigger than the Mary. Perhaps the water dragon was regarded as prey. This eye was staring at the melee, making everyone's hair stand on end. Shin immediately increased the delivery volume of chakra. It's time to speed up. The water dragon changed from a wretched water dragon to a very fast wretched water dragon, but instead of moving forward, the melee was even slowly retreating. Because the whale had already aimed at them, the terrifying suction force was dragging the melee back. Nami and Usopp hugged each other and cried, as if they saw their death approaching. 3 shadow clones stood at the stern of the ship, working hard like 3 blowers using wind-style great breakthrough to fight the suction. Zoro and Sanji gave up their struggle and even discussed with Luffy how much a whale of its size needs to eat in one meal. Zoro feels that whales only drink seawater without alcohol, which means they lose a lot of fun. Sanji said that it was fortunate that he was not a breeder, otherwise he would have lost half his life in cooking. Luffy expressed envy of the whale's appetite. It was really impressive to be able to eat so much in one meal. You 3, don't let me take it easy. Hedgehog, what kind of dessert do you think this whale would like? A giant donut? No, the best chocolate ice cream in the world. Under the huge suction force, the water dragon gradually lost its shape, and was sucked into the huge mouth together with the melee. Are we still alive? Usopp, who closed his eyes tightly because of fear, asked tremblingly. Why is there no movement? Is everyone dead? Fool. Nami punched the coward and made him open his eyes. He couldn't believe the scene that appeared in front of him. The blue sky, white clouds, and even bright light were all exactly the same as outside. Except for the green ocean below. This should be the whale's stomach. Is the thing underneath it gastric acid? While Shin was thinking, he held Luffy's paw that he wanted to stretch out. Don't touch it randomly. I won't tell you whether it's dangerous or not. It's a bit disgusting. Sanji took a deep breath of cigarette and frowned. But these blue skies and white clouds don't look like what's in your stomach. There is a small island over there. Let's go there and have a look. Zoro pointed to the small island not far away, where a palm tree was planted and clothes were hanging to dry outside the hut. As the melee gradually approached the island, Shin looked at the clothes hanging outside and couldn't help but complain. After all, this is also the whale's stomach. Doesn't it smell bad to hang clothes here? Before he finished speaking, an old man walked out of the house with gray hair, glasses, and a saffron on his head. He looks harmless on the outside, but his eyes are particularly scary, staring at everyone as if he is ready to take action at any time. Usopp swallowed and couldn't help but said, "What are you doing? We have cannons here." The old man's voice was deep. "Forget it. People will die." Sanji was also a little surprised by the old man's momentum. "Who do you think will die?" It turns out it's you." Shin held down Sanji, who was about to take action, and said that he should leave this kind of negotiation to himself. "Ahem, old man, where is this place and who are you? Shouldn't you give your name before asking someone else?" "That's right, I'm Uchiha. My name is Crocus. I am the lighthouse keeper at Twin Points. I am 71 years old." Fire style. Nami stepped forward and pulled the frustrated hedgehog away. This was the first time his self-introduction was interrupted. The old man was still reading the newspaper leisurely. You ask me where this is. You broke into my private resort and your tone is so arrogant. Holiday. But there's no meat here. This time it was Zoro who stepped forward and held down the embarrassing captain. This is the stomach of the whale, right old man? No, this is the stomach of a rat. Zoro, who wanted to draw the knife, was pulled away by Usopp. Crocus continued. I painted the sky and white clouds above. This can be regarded as my pastime as a doctor. What is the connection between painting and doctors? As expected of an old-timer, in just a few words, everyone except Luffy broke through the defense. The exit is over there. Crocus pointed to the iron gate in the distance. Who knows why there is an entrance and exit in the whale's belly? Thank you, Uncle Wa, you are such a good person. Luffy smiled and thanked the other party, but before they could take any action, stomach acid suddenly surged. Only then did everyone see that the island under Crocus's feet was not an island at all, but a special iron boat. Is Laboon attacking Red Line again? Crocus put down the newspaper and plunged into the sea of stomach acid. Hey, that's stomach acid. Don't you think it's dirty, sir? Shin didn't mean to worry about Crocus. After all, he jumped in on his own initiative. No one would deliberately seek death. He said Laboon, is that the name of the whale? Nami noted the key point, and Usopp added another. What does it mean to hit the red line? Is this the grand line? We encountered so many weird things as soon as we entered. This is an adventure. Ads by Bid Gear. Chapter 73 Laboon and the Troop. Is this really the belly of a whale? Watching Crocus climb up a ladder, Shin was speechless for a while, thinking that he was a whale of a technological future. It didn't take long for the stomach acid sea to stop churning. It seemed that Crocus had stopped the whale's rebellion. Did two people jump out of the passage? Rubber, harpoon. Seeing that the two of them were about to fall into the sea of stomach acid, Luffy quickly stretched out his arms to pull them over. Boom. The Luffy version of the accelerator is fast, but my head hurts a bit. The man and woman in front of them carried rocket launchers with them, and their outfits looked very unique. The man wore a crown with a 9 on his left and right faces, and his green clothes were very showy. The woman has blue hair tied into a very high ponytail. She wears a striped sling inside and a light green plush-collared jacket on the outside. It's obviously a pretty good outfit, but it looks like it's just a walk-on. Shut up if you have pink eye. This is obviously a very beautiful beauty. I'm just talking about the overall senses. Look, I think it would be better to let this high ponytail down. The two of them haven't sobered up yet. Sanji is already squatting aside and acting like a nymphomaniac, and Shin is about to adjust the girl's hairstyle. Nympho Sanji and sidekick Vivi. Okay you two, don't touch girls. Nami stepped forward and pulled the kappa and the hedgehog away one by one, then looked back at Luffy who was sitting in the special seat. What are we going to do with these two, Captain? I don't know. Luffy said this naturally, and Zoro took over the words helplessly. Anyway, let's wake them up first. Give it to me. Usopp showed a confident look, took out a treasure from his crossbody bag, split it in half and stuffed it into their mouths. The faces of the unconscious duo suddenly heated up, and small beads of sweat appeared on their foreheads. They suddenly opened their eyes angrily, and spit out flames from their mouths. So spicy. Really? I even divided it into 2 halves. That's what you use for attack, idiot. I want to eat too. Shut up, Captain. The water ball condensed by chakra was delivered to the mouths of the two of them, and Sanji thoughtfully brought a bottle of milk and handed it to the little girl. The two people who had recovered finally noticed that it was a pirate ship and squatted in the corner muttering something unknown. Are you still here, villains? Crocus's voice came from the passage, but the villain's voice was obviously not addressed to Luffy and others. Hum. The supporting duo stood up and sneered, raising the rocket launchers in their hands and aiming them above Crocus. It's our job to kill this whale. Get ready to fire. Boom. It wasn't the sound of cannon fire, but the fists of Luffy and Shin fell on their heads, knocking them unconscious with one punch from each. It's so rude. Uncle Wa is obviously a good person. You're really a standard brainless villain. Why don't you just shoot him? Why don't you put on a pose? ... On Crocus's small island iron boat, everyone temporarily stayed here. Thank you very much for helping me. It seems you are not bad people. Because Luffy went to climb a tree. Tree climbing Luffy. We can only negotiate on your behalf by letter. Can you tell us in detail what's going on, Grandpa, these two walk-ons, this whale, and the shock just now? Crocus sat on the recliner again and began to explain in detail to everyone. The two walk-ons are villains from nearby towns, and their target is this whale, Laboon. They want to hunt Laboon as a food supplement for the town. Laboon is an island whale, the largest whale species in the world that lives only in the West Blue. It follows a group of pirates to the Grand Line. The vibration just now was because Laboon was hitting the red line. 50 years ago, the group of pirates left Laboon here and gave it to Crocus to take care of. They promised that in 2 or 3 years, they would sail around the world for a week and come back here, but now it has been 50 years. Laboon has always believed that his partners are still alive, so he keeps attacking the red line. But the opponent is a giant continent that divides the world, and the constant impact has caused considerable injuries to itself, so Crocus will regularly inject Laboon with tranquilizers. To facilitate the injection, he built this resort center inside Laboon's body. Everyone also left Laboon's body and came to the Twin Capes outside, where they saw Laboon's huge figure again. Usopp was still immersed in the story and couldn't help but sigh. But it's been 50 years. Those pirates really made it easy for them to wait. Fool. Sanji took a deep breath of cigarette. Compared to the romantic Usopp, he was more realistic. This is the grand line. They are dead and will never come back no matter how long we wait. You stinky cook is really not as romantic as a man. There are people in my village who have been sealed for thousands of years and are still alive and kicking. Maybe there are still people in that group of pirates alive. Yes, they will definitely come back. Usopp immediately echoed, but Crocus knew better. The truth is cruel. I got the news from the newspaper that the pirates have disappeared. They may be dead or may have escaped. I also followed a group of pirates out to sea to look for them, but I never found them. Since you know the truth, why don't you tell that whale? Doesn't Laboon understand human language? I didn't hide it. Laboon also knew the news, but he didn't want to believe it. What a whale of a brotherhood. Sanji couldn't help but have a sad look on his face. Although it is pitiful, you are also abandoned, so you can just ignore it, right? No, after all, I've spent 50 years with it, and look at the injury on its head, it would have died from the impact if I had left it alone. Originally, Shin was still listening to the story attentively, but suddenly he heard Luffy's roar and followed it. I saw Luffy carrying something and rushing towards Laboon's head. It's so relaxing. Do you want to go hiking now? Wait, that seems to be the mast of the Mary, right? Zoro squinted and took a closer look. Seems to be. Looking at the bare mast, Shin felt somewhat balanced in his heart. This time it was finally not Big Bird's fault. Rubber, flower arrangement. Luffy carried the mast and ran all the way to Laboon's head, and inserted the mast into a scar. Blood spurted out, Laboon screamed, and it began to shake its body, trying to throw Luffy off. The surrounding sea surface stirred up waves in the blink of an eye. Shin separated a shadow clone and used water-style White Dragon to stabilize the Mary and prevent it from being washed onto the red line. Seeing Laboon jumping up and about to hit Luffy's head against the red line, Shin couldn't help but take action. Earth-style super light heavy rock technique. The best way to deal with such a huge beast is to use illusions, but you have to make eye contact with Laboon first. Luffy hugged the inserted mast tightly, but stared at the letter flying over. Shin, this is my battle with it. Idiot, pull me quickly, we're about to hit you. Don't interfere. Facing Luffy's serious expression, the redness in Shin's eyes gradually dissipated, he sighed, and his body slowly drifted towards the direction of the melee. I understand, Captain. Ads by Bid Gear. Chapter 74 Target, Whiskey Peak. The battle between Luffy and Laboon can be said to be a deadlock. Laboon's impact caused minimal damage to Luffy, and Luffy's attacks were difficult to cause effective damage. When Shin returned to the melee, he found that the two men who had been knocked unconscious had woken up and were preparing to take advantage of the chaos to escape. What are we going to do next, Miss? Wednesday. Anyway, let's go back and report to the boss first. The mission time limit has exceeded now. I just noticed that they are the newly added criminals with bounties on them some time ago, with a total of 100 million belly. Whether we kill him or bring him in, we can do anything to offset the punishment for failing our mission. It sounds like you are not just simple fishing criminals. Those with unknown origins should lie down for now. I don't have time to deal with you now. The letter landed in front of the two of them, and he opened his blood-red eyes again. Illusion Sharingan. The supporting duo fainted again. Shin also turned his attention to Luffy again. At this time, the battle was still in a stalemate, and neither side could do anything to the other. When Laboon was about to hit again, Luffy stretched out his hand to stop. We're tied. He stood up and put on his straw hat with a smile on his face. I'm strong, right? You want to beat me, right? We haven't decided yet, so we have to keep fighting. Although your companion is dead, I will always be your opponent. Everyone who heard this also understood what Luffy meant. Even Laboon could understand what Luffy meant. Although it was a crude excuse, Luffy gave Laboon a new agreement. We have made an appointment. I will sail around the world for a week and come back here again. Then we will decide the winner. This is my agreement to fight with you. Before we come back here, you must not knock off that mark. Luffy was covered in paint and nodded with satisfaction. Shin couldn't help but twitch at the corners of his eyes when he looked at the abstract Straw Hat Skull logo, but this time it was for Laboon's good, and he barely resisted the desire to complain. Hey, lunch is ready. Sanji greeted everyone to start dinner. To celebrate, we have rare elephant tuna this time. The elephant tuna bought in Logue Town has been stored in the ice house. To celebrate everyone's arrival at the Grand Line, Sanji finally got his hands on this rare ingredient. While eating, Nami also asked Luffy a key question. Luffy, which route are we taking? The one leading to Raftel. Idiot, that's where the final point is. What I'm asking is where should we go to the next island? Listen, unlike the previous sea areas, the magnetism in the Grand Line is chaotic, so the compass does not work. And if you want to confirm the direction, you can only rely on the recording pointer, which is a special pointer that can record magnetic force. As he spoke, Nami waved his hand and gestured to the record pointer on his wrist. The islands in the Grand Line are connected through special magnetic rules. The recording pointer will record the current magnetic force and point to the next island that is magnetically connected. In other words, the route is fixed. We can only move forward by recording the pointer, and the only place where we can freely choose the route is here. There are 7 islands extending from Upside Down Mountain, symbolizing 7 routes, so we have to decide which route to take, do you understand? Luffy pulled the trunk of the elephant tuna and nodded seriously. Yeah, let's take the raftel one. Boom. The captain who didn't listen carefully was punched by the navigator. Crocus on the side couldn't help but sigh. It's rare to see newcomers as well prepared as you. We have a logbook sent by a senior, so we know better. Shin answered the call while eating ice cream. Fortunately, he had Boss Zafu's logbook. Someone couldn't really break in without knowing anything, right? Nami, aren't the details of the island written in the logbook? The only one that Boss Zefu chose originally is called Barrow. It is an island full of wild beasts. Boss Zefu found a lot of ingredients on it. Grandpa, do you know what the 7 islands are? The letter puts its hope in Crocus. After all, he has been guarding here for 50 years. The old man swallowed a mouthful of fish and nodded. Except for Barrow, which the little girl just mentioned, the other 6 islands are Crete, Todnia, Santoli, Whiskey Peak, Galeman and Berkner. Any recommendations? If I want to say it, it is definitely Centauri. Santoli is known as the hot city, and the girls there are very unrestrained. Really? Upon hearing this, Sanji immediately came over and his eyes turned pink. Hey Luffy, let's choose Santoli, we can reach Raftel in the end anyway. He immediately turned around and wanted to instigate the captain, but Shin held him down with one hand. No, wait a minute. While everyone was eating, Shin's shadow clone stayed in the cabin and was responsible for interrogating the supporting duo. Luffy, what's the matter? There's probably a party waiting for us at Whiskey Peak. Really? But after the party we have to fight with someone else. It doesn't matter, as long as there is a party. Yoshi, let's go to Whiskey Peak. In a few words, Luffy decided on the course. Everyone looked at it with black lines on their heads. Zoro frowned and looked over. Are they the 2 people just now? Shin nodded in affirmation and told everyone the news he learned from the 2 of them. The 2 of them are not simple fishing criminals, but senior agents of the Baroque Working Society. Baroque works. Yes, that man has a very strict mouth, but the woman is surprisingly easy to talk to. After I threatened her a little bit, she took the initiative to say a lot. You bastard wouldn't have done anything outrageous to that beautiful lady, would you? Don't interrupt. In short, Whiskey Peak is the outpost of the Baroque Work Society, and its target is the newcomers who have just entered the Grand Line. There are hundreds of bounty hunters on the island, and I also found out their coping methods. They will first pretend to welcome the pirates, hold a grand banquet, and kill the pirates when they relax their vigilance. We don't know which route to choose anyway. Why not go to the free banquet? Luffy nodded fiercely. It didn't matter which course he chose. Crocus is a bit doubtful. The newcomers who came here before, as long as they know some information, are extremely cautious in choosing routes. Is this really good? I chose Whiskey Peak just for a simple banquet. It doesn't matter. If you're not satisfied, just go around again. That's it. Crocus smiled and looked at Luffy who jumped onto the boat, as if he was seeing the former captain. Everyone, let's sail. Idiot, please repair the mast. The mast that was broken by Luffy was briefly repaired by Usopp, but it still needs to be reinforced. Nami also moved the deck chair to somewhere and started recording the magnetic force pointing towards Whiskey Peak. Zoro started to fall asleep after eating, and Shin was pestering Sanji to make more desserts. You have already eaten 8 portions today. Miss Nami's portion was taken away by you just now. Don't even think about eating anything with sugar today, you sweet-toothed hedgehog who is rude to ladies. So stingy. Ads by Bid Gear. Chapter 75 Vivi and Mr. 8. Goodbye Mr. Wa and Whale. Luffy stood at the stern of the ship and said goodbye to Crocus and Laboon. The Melly raised its sails again and headed towards Whiskey Peak. Speaking of which, where are the 2 walk-ons? Zoro was the most attentive person on the ship, and he never saw the duo. Shin shrugged and pointed to the first floor. Knocked her unconscious and put it in the warehouse. I always feel that the woman has something to say. It's just right. I'll ask twice more. With that said, Shin stood up from the deck and walked towards the warehouse, but was blocked by Sanji. I also need to go. Quote. Just stay out of the way, you perverted Kappa. The 2 came to the warehouse together. In addition to the piled wood and steel plates, some non-destructible grains were also stored here. The 2 groups were tied to 2 ends of the warehouse. Because the main target of the inquiry this time was a woman, they did not wake up the man. Shin was about to throw the water balloon at the opponent's face, but was stopped by Sanji. What are you doing? Be gentle. Where is the roughness? The interrogation process has been like this for so many years. Don't talk nonsense with your eyes open. Sometimes I look for my own reasons. I'm still so soft-hearted towards women after all this time. Are you serious about being a pirate? Whispering sound. Sanji didn't answer, but went up and shook the body of the female partner. Fortunately, Shadow Clone didn't use too much force at that time, so the level of drowsiness was not that deep. After the bitch girl woke up, she curled up and retreated, her voice full of fear. What are you going to do? He, of course I'm doing something I've wanted to do for a long time. No. With a sinister smile on his face, Shin extended his hand to the top of the dragonfly's head. Then she spread her high ponytail. Look, I just said it would be better if the high ponytail is spread out. Indeed, I feel like a princess. The bitch girl had tears in her eyes and looked speechlessly at the two people in front of her who were commenting on her hairstyle. Although she deliberately acted ugly, was she really not attractive at all? After this little episode, the subsequent questioning went very smoothly. Name. You asked before, Miss Wednesday. What I asked about was not the code name, but the real name. Quote. Vivi. I seemed to be hesitant to speak earlier. Is there something you want to say to me? Vivi looked struggling, not sure whether the person in front of her could help her. Finally, she decided to test the other person's attitude first. Can you move my partner away first to make sure he can't hear the conversation between us? Before Shin could even say his consent, Sanji had already thrown the man out with his quick eyes and hands. Didn't you say you wanted to be gentle before? Ah, did I say that? After making sure that no one was waiting, Vivi said. I want to make a deal with you. Deal? How much can you give me? Hey, where did you come from? As expected of Nami-san, he's as fast as lightning. If you don't know how to praise others, just shut up. Nami ran in from nowhere, easily solved the pervert kappa who didn't know how to praise others, and looked at Vivi with bright eyes. What is the content of the transaction just mentioned? If the price is right, we can't accept it. I want you to send me to Alabasta. What is that place? It is a country built in the desert. I have a permanent pointer here and you can go there directly. Hey, it's a permanent pointer, but if you want to go, just take a merchant ship. It's none of your business, I have my own reasons. Vivi interrupted Nami's question, and Nami began to think. How much money can we get? 50,000 belly. Quote. Do we look like idiots? Nami is full of black marks. This price is unreasonable. Taking an ordinary merchant ship may be more expensive than this. Vivi looked at the quarrel between Hedgehog and Cheesehead behind Nami, and nodded unconsciously, looking like an idiot indeed. Since there is no sincerity in cooperation, forget it. You two, stop making trouble and go out to help. Nami dragged the two of them out of the warehouse one by one. Now was not the time for discussion. The weather outside was very unusual. Vivi wanted to call a few people to discuss it later, but was knocked unconscious by a shot of Sharingan. The enemy was most reliable when he was in a comatose state. Compared to East Blue, the weather on Grand Line is more changeable and completely unreasonable. The sun may be shining one second, and the sky may be snowing heavily the next. Heavy snow quickly accumulated on the deck, attracting a few idiots with no sense of crisis. Come and see my masterpiece, the Snow Queen. Usopp. Look at this, the Armstrong Gyrojet Armstrong Cannon. Wow, the degree of restoration is very high. Bang bang bang. Nami raised his fist with white smoke and shouted at the three people. Don't do such boring things and clear the snow properly for me. Also, throw that obscene thing out immediately. Hey, that's the Armstrong Gyrojet Armstrong Cannon. How could there be such a wretched cannon? Bang bang bang. I'm so sorry. *3. Zoro on the observation deck shouted at this time. Hey, there's an iceberg ahead. Nani. Nami was shocked and looked at the letter hurriedly. Nobu-san, use your convenient ninjutsu to find a solution. The Grand Line is indeed the Grand Line. During the short voyage, everyone experienced icebergs, heavy rain, uzumaki, scorching sun, and thick fog. Under Nami's command and everyone's cooperation, the melee survived these abnormal weather conditions without any danger. Everyone finally approached Whiskey Peak. After passing through a thick fog, the melee arrived at the mouth of the sea. Usopp looked around and discovered the hills in the distance. That's really weird. Is that a giant cactus? You'd better use a telescope to take a look. There are tombstones on the hills. So scary. Usopp felt a chill. How many people would die? From the observation deck, Zoro could see the town in the distance, but the people in the town had no intention of welcoming him. Didn't they say they would pretend to welcome us first? I think they seem surprised by our appearance. The two people who delivered the message are still locked up in the warehouse. Coupled with the fog at the entrance, it is normal that they have not reacted now. Shin came to the special seat, squeezed Luffy's butt, and took a seat in the special seat. This is to let the bounty hunter inside recognize who is coming and not to act immediately without overestimating his capabilities. He doesn't want to miss the free banquet. That's Straw Hat Luffy and the mysterious ninja with a bounty of 50 million. At the clock tower in the town, a curly-haired man put down the telescope in his hand with a shocked look on his face, and at the same time ordered the people around him. A big shot is coming, hurry up and prepare for the welcome ceremony. Yes, Mr. 8. After his men left, the curly-haired uncle frowned, and his eyes became a little sad. All the newcomers from East Blue are here. How come there was no news from Mr. 9 and Miss, who went to Twin Point on Wednesday? Don't let anything happen, Vivi. Ads by Bid Gear. Chapter 76 Battle on a Moonlit Night and New Enemies. Welcome, warriors from afar. Before the melee docked, Mr. 8 finally organized the manpower to welcome everyone. Although a little crude, Luffy is still very useful. Ha ha ha, uncle, your hair is really interesting. Ahem, I am the mayor here, and we have prepared a banquet to welcome you. Mr. 8 cleared his throat and prepared to welcome everyone to the banquet venue. Everyone didn't refuse. After all, they knew the situation here before. Although Usopp was a little scared, everyone on the ship who could fight was following him, so there was no need to worry. As usual, Shin left a shadow clone to guard the ship. Of course, it was separated before everyone docked, so that no outsiders could find it. Seeing the food, Luffy forgot all about the situation mentioned in the previous letter, and started eating with delicious food. At the same time, I didn't forget to praise the uncle. You are so kind, uncle. The corners of Mr. 8's mouth twitched, his smile was a little forced, and he couldn't help but complain in his heart. This guy is really good at eating. Then he looked at the other members of the Straw Hats. The mysterious ninja is tasting various desserts. It seems that he didn't notice the trap here. The mouth with the long nose is really amazing. It can make up so many stories on the spot. The one with yellow hair is obviously a pervert. We will arrange for a few beauties to come over later. But I didn't expect that the legendary pirate hunter is here. I hope he won't find out what's going on here. I'll give him some more wine later. Only this woman looked very alert. Mr. 8 picked up a glass of wine and walked towards Nami, with a smile on his face. Miss, would you like a glass of fruit wine to soothe your throat? Nami put down the knife and fork he was using to cut the steak and wiped his mouth gracefully. No, I don't drink. Speaking of which, we have a drinking competition here, and the winner can take away 100,000 belly. Nami quickly grabbed the cup, raised his head, and drank it in one gulp, with a blush on his face. Continued cup. Ha ha ha, it's so generous. Don't be so gloomy, you pirate brother over there, let's come together. ... The banquet that started in the afternoon continued until early morning, and everyone fell asleep in a drowsy manner. Mr. 8 walked out of the house with a tired look on his face. This group of people was really difficult to deal with. His eyes moved to the distance, and he said with emotion. The cactus rock under the moonlight, you are still so beautiful tonight. Unfortunately, no one could respond to his emotion. A woman in nun uniform walked out with her head covered. That little girl is really good at drinking. After taking off her nun's uniform, her bronze skin and strong body made the twin ponytails on her head look out of place. Miss, thank you for your hard work on Monday. That's not true. It's just 6 brats. We might as well have dealt with them at the port earlier. No, they are not ordinary people. See for yourself. As he spoke, he threw over 2 reward orders, and Miss Monday's eyes widened instantly, her tone full of shock. 50 million. The straw hat boy who ate up half a month of our food reserve and the spiky-headed kid who ate up all the desserts. That's right. Hurry up and organize people to tie them up. This is an unprecedented amount of goods. What a pity. Originally, I thought of you as friends. Who? Under the moonlight, 3 figures stand on the roof opposite the 2 people. The figure sitting cross-legged on the left is holding a knife, and the figure standing on the right has sparks and smoke around his mouth. The most conspicuous one is the figure squatting in the middle. A pair of blood-red eyes. Uchiha Shin is a ninja. You 3, didn't you fall asleep? Mr. 8 spoke in disbelief. Obviously the 3 of them were unprepared before. Sanji stamped out his cigarette and sounded a little unhappy. Really, don't compare us with those 2 unsuspecting idiots. As a swordsman, you are not stupid enough to be controlled by alcohol. More and more people gathered below, and the previously friendly banquet partners now took up arms. Zoro pulled out Shui's eye and said in a provocative tone. This is a rare opportunity, let's give it a try. Don't count those ladies, I won't do anything to ladies. Yeah, I won't do anything to that bald man. The strawberry pie he makes is pretty good. Quote. Asterisk 2. The 3 of them jumped down from the heights in tacit understanding and rushed towards the target group. If it was 1 against 100, they might have to hide. After all, they were all good bounty hunters. But 3 against 100 would just rush over and it would be over. Zoro's sword was sharp and he dodged several bullets. He did not use the 3-sword style. He only used 2 swords to deal with it. Sanji's attack was equally fast. Being good at kicking, he didn't give the crowd a chance to shoot. However, when he encountered a nun holding a child, Sanji still couldn't kick him. Boom. Forget it, ma'am. Stop pretending to be pitiful for me, kid. Nobu wanted to move his body for the first time in a long time, so he opened his Sharingan, chose to use physical skills to fight the enemy, walked through the crowd and pinched Miss Monday's neck. Do you want to dance too? The barrel of a gun protruded from Mr. 8's curly hair and fired bullets continuously. He used Miss Monday's body to block the bullet and opened it casually. The letter did not aim at Mr. 8. Instead, he shuttled among the crowd, constantly targeting the female enemy. If Sanji is unwilling to take action, just help him solve it yourself. There is no need to force him to change the rules of conduct he has adhered to for so many years. Boom. An explosion sounded, and the heat wave attracted everyone's attention. From the smoke, two figures, a man and a woman, came out. The man was wearing sunglasses and dressed like a rock singer. The woman is tall, with short blonde hair, light green eyes, a smile on her face, a yellow hat and lemon slice-shaped earrings, a yellow dress with a lemon slice pattern, and white wearing high heels, white gloves on her hands, and holding an umbrella with a yellow and blue striped pattern. Wow, what a lovely lady, I don't know your name. Sanji's eyes were full of love, and he came forward with a greasy voice, wanting to kiss Fangs. Before he could hold the other person's hand, a suspicious black ball hit him. Boom. The explosion sounded again, and Sanji was knocked away by the impact. He was about to hit the wall, but Shin flew over in time and hugged him. As expected of a pornographic kappa. Did the explosion explode the pornographic plate above your head? Stop nagging, you bastard spiky head, let me go quickly. The two slowly landed next to Zoro, and the crowd around them stopped, watching warily at the new rock man and umbrella girl. It's really embarrassing. There are so many people and they can't win 3 newcomers. The rock man was the first to taunt, and the umbrella girl followed closely. Is this the difference between you and us? Ha ha ha. Mr. 8 had a gloomy face and recognized the identities of the two people. Are you here specifically to laugh at us? Mr. 5, Miss Valentine. That may be part of the reason, but we also came with a mission. Great, as long as you are here, we can definitely deal with these 3 brats. Are you kidding us? Our mission target is not them. But you, Mr. 8. Or we should call you Captain of Alabasta's Kingdom Guard. Ikaram. Ads by Bid Gear. Chapter 77 Sharingan Vivi. Nani. There were exclamations from the surrounding crowd, and they all moved away from Mr. 8's position to avoid being accidentally injured by senior agents. The intelligence we received said there is another big shot here. Mr. 5 picked his nose with a leisurely expression, completely ignoring the alert Mr. 8. As long as you hand over the princess, we can give you a happy life. Asshole. How is that possible, Mr. 8? No, Ikaram stretched out the barrel of the gun in his curls again and launched an attack on the two cadres. But a cadre is a cadre after all. Mr. 5 turned sideways to avoid the attack, and Mr. Valentine flew directly into the air. Shin immediately became interested and looked at Mr. Valentine with the eyes of a lover. The greed on his face made Zoro beside him look at him frequently. Have you been assimilated by that perverted cook? Don't compare me to that kappa. Wiping the saliva from the corner of his mouth, Shin withdrew his gaze. Shadow clone technique. Boom. A clone appeared and immediately ran to where the melee was docked. As the clone, he understood what the original wanted to do now. While they are fighting among themselves, let's take care of the rest. Just in time, I've already scored 26 points. Zoro put the word, Wado, into his mouth, preparing for a quick fight. Sanji finally withdrew his gaze from Miss Valentine and lit a cigarette again. Shin flexed his fingers, and then used illusions to fight against the enemy. The bounty hunters around them had been maimed a lot by the 3 of them. Now they had no will to fight and just wanted to escape. Against this group of homeless dogs, less than 3 minutes was enough for them to end the battle. I'm sorry, uncle, the strawberry pie you made is really delicious. With a sad look on his face, Shin dealt with the bald man making strawberry pie. At this time, there was no standing opponent on the field. The battle between Zoro and Sanji was not over yet. They pointed at a fallen enemy and started arguing. Obviously I kicked him in the head first. I had already stabbed you 3 times before you came. Mine. It's obviously mine. The two of them put their foreheads on each other, neither giving in to the other, fighting for the right to own this point. Okay. Shin stepped forward and pushed the two of them away helplessly, acting as a peacemaker. Is it such a small thing? I'll judge it for you. Crouching beside the fainted man, green light appeared on Shin's hand. The knife wound caused by Zoro healed slowly. The man opened his hazy eyes and saw only an angel with a kind smile. Did you save me? Thanks. Boom. Before he finished speaking, the man received a punch on the head. Shin stood up and raised his hands, declaring the winner. Chapter 33. Yahoo! This is a foul on your part. How can you revive someone and then knock him unconscious? The hedgehog head will count as 0.5 points. The stab wound on the green algae head is no longer there. The other 0.5 points should be counted as mine. Only treating the knife wound means that it is a fatal injury. I solved this person before. Okay. 2 losers, including the 2 people in the melee warehouse, I am the absolute winner. Then wake them all up and let's fight again. Asterisk 2. Different from the noisy fight among the three people, Ikarim was now in a huge crisis. Mr. 5 is a user with the ability to explode fruits. Any part of his body can be turned into a bomb. What he is best at is picking out his nose and using it to attack. Mr. Valentine is a person with light lion fruit ability. He can change his weight at will. He can float briefly in the air by borrowing the umbrella he carries with him. Faced with the siege of two ability users, Ikarim could only flee in panic. Now is not the time for him to sacrifice for his country. Princess Vivi, where are you? Hiding in the alley, he panted heavily, feeling sorrow in his heart. Our identities have been exposed, but Her Highness the Princess has obviously not been captured by these two people. We must find a way to inform the princess of the news, otherwise the princess will fall into a trap. I found you, Miss. Valentine was floating in the air holding an umbrella and found Ikarim hiding in the alley. 10,000 kilograms of weight. She put away her umbrella, activated her fruit power, and smashed her small body down with huge impact energy. Boom. Hateful. He turned sideways to avoid the attack from above, but the ensuing impact caused Ikarim to stumble to the ground, and the rising smoke also obscured his sight. Booger bomb. A booger came in front of Ikarim. Before he could feel sick, the booger had already shot into his body, and an explosion suddenly sounded. Boom. Miss. Valentine took off again with the help of the heat wave of the explosion, half covering her mouth and letting out a sharp laugh. Ah ha ha ha, is this the captain of the escort team? He is really weak. Hurry up and tell me where Princess Vivi is hiding. Mr. 5 stepped forward and kicked him hard several times, but Ikarim just lowered his head and remained silent. Is this Vivi you are talking about, right? Nani? The three of them looked around instantly and saw the blue-haired Vivi with her legs spread widely, squatting on the roof not far away with a heroic posture. Princess Vivi, run away. Ikarim shouted hoarsely that the princess in his impression was definitely no match for the two of them. You are so talented, Your Highness the Princess, you actually dare to take the initiative to come. Booger bomb. Vivi dodged the bomb by turning her head slightly, with a chill on her face. I thought you were using some kind of explosive weapon just now, but I didn't expect it to be such a disgusting fruit power. Vivi jumped down from the roof and was in front of Mr. 5 in an instant. Her eyes glowed ominously and she looked at him. Have a good sleep. As soon as Mr. 5 leaned back to distance himself, his body lost consciousness and fell to the ground on his back. Mr. 5, are you kidding? How could you be defeated by such a little girl? Miss Valentine, who was floating in the air, couldn't believe the scene in front of her. Her partner fell down just in front of him. Vivi heard the sound and looked up. The view from this angle was just right. Oh, it's pure white. Underneath the charming appearance, she still has the heart of a pure girl. You woman. Go to hell, Miss. Valentine activated her fruit ability, targeting Vivi below. 10,000 kilograms of weight. One thing to say. Vivi moved back a step, and Miss Valentine's attack failed and hit him in front of him. Your ability is quite stupid. You bastard. Miss Valentine, who was squatting on the ground, turned around and shouted, her tone full of humiliated anger. Just as she was about to stand up and attack again, the index and middle fingers of Vivi's right hand came together and pointed at her forehead first. Good night. With only a pair of red eyes remaining in his sight, Miss Valentine, like her partner, slowly lost consciousness. Who are you? Ikarim forced himself to stand up with a stern look in his eyes. The Princess Vivi he knew definitely did not have such fighting power. With her back to Ikarim, Vivi stood up slowly, raised her hands in the moonlight, and said like a demon leading people into the abyss. I am Princess Vivi, dear captain of the guards. Do you want to have the same power as me? Now on sale, only 50 million belly. Ads by Bid Gear. Chapter 78 The Function of Scroll No. 2. What a joke. Ikarim came up and was ready to punch her. How could Princess Vivi, whom she had watched since childhood, be like this? Really, just a joke. Vivi took Ikarim's right hook with one hand, and at the same time released the transformation technique, revealing a spiky head. You should go to sleep too. Forehead. Ikarim finally knew why Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine suddenly fell down. When the eyes in his sight continued to enlarge, he also lost consciousness. Let me see. Looking at the three people who fell to the ground, Shin rubbed his hands excitedly. Which one should I start with? Are you really not a pervert? Zoro and Sanji arrived at this time and couldn't help but complain. Zoro held a bird in his hand, and Sanji held a potted cactus. Stop being so verbose, it will help a lot. Shin stepped forward and took what they had in their hands. This was what Shin had asked them to find before, an animal or a plant. Nami and the other three also came over yawning, and the two of them woke up the three who were still sleeping. Because he knew the routine here in advance, Nami got drunk and fell asleep unprepared. Anyway, there was a reliable person guarding him, so he didn't have to worry about anything. As for Luffy and Usopp, they were really confused. Luffy was still shouting that he wanted to settle the score with the three of them, and actually knocked down the good people who invited him to dinner. Fortunately, Nami's gentle punches helped him regain his senses. Why did you call us here? Haven't you taken care of it? Nami asked as she yawned. She planned to sleep until dawn. It's because of him. Shin pointed at Ikarim behind him. My shadow clone will send someone over later. We seem to have really captured a princess. Princess. That's the blue-haired girl named Vivi in the ship's warehouse. Really, she looks like a walk-on. I have confirmed the appearance. If this curly-haired man is really the captain of the escort team, then Vivi is the real princess. Princess, let's let him go quickly. Usopp suggested on the side that kidnapping a princess is considered a felony everywhere. This princess's situation is not good. Let's talk about it and decide after the others arrive. Us. What about you? I have business to do. Shin took out the number 2 scroll from his waist, with a look of interest on his face. He used Sharingan to control the bird and kept it on his shoulder. By the way, Usopp, here's the little hammer in your bag. Holding a small hammer in his left hand, a potted cactus in his right hand, and a bird standing on his shoulder, Shin walked towards Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine with an excited look on his face. Fortunately, Sanji couldn't bear to be pestered by Luffy and went to the kitchen, otherwise he would have come up and muttered a few words. Scroll number 2, according to the message on the red scroll, is a soul sealing technique, and it also has the function of soul cutting. Let me be healthy. Shin entered chakra into it and quickly understood how to use it. It was a foolproof operation. As long as he put the scroll on someone's forehead, and there was no resistance, he could directly extract the other person's soul. The first target is Mr. 5. Although his ability is a bit disgusting, Miss Valentine's fruit ability credit light heavy rock technique and weighted rock technique can also do it. As the chakra was delivered, the scroll began to glow with white fluorescence, and Mr. 5's body also twitched, looking very painful. After about a minute, Mr. 5 stopped twitching, and his whole body seemed to turn into a puddle of mud, lying on the ground helplessly. Shin also felt that there was something extra in the scroll in his hand, and took it away from Mr. 5's forehead without stopping the delivery of chakra. He closed his eyes and followed the chakra, carefully feeling what was going on inside the scroll. In the darkness, Shin could perceive a transparent figure, exactly like Mr. 5, still emitting white light. Isn't this just a simple soul? Why do you say that after absorbing the soul of a person with abilities, you will know how to use it? Shin had previously used the spiritualization technique and could roughly perceive other people's souls, but without invading the opponent's spiritual world, he could not clearly see the specific shape of the soul. This was also the first time he saw someone else's soul, and he couldn't help but draw his attention closer. Something soon attracted his attention. On the belly of Mr. 5's soul, there was a bright red spot, only the size of a pea. Is this probably what is going to be cut out? Shin thought with some uncertainty, but still controlled the chakra and activated the cutting function of the scroll. It was also a fool-like operation. With a thought, a small scalpel appeared in this black space. He accurately took out the red dot. Take it out. What next? It's so convenient. Write me an instruction manual, you bastard. Shin looked at the little bird on his shoulder, and asked Zoro and the two to find these things just for this time. Using Sharingan to control the bird without resisting, Shin attached the scroll to its body and transferred the red dot inside the scroll. Boom. Ah, why did it suddenly explode? Are there any enemies again? Zoro was instantly ready to fight, staring at the center of the explosion. Luffy also stood up and put on his hat, protecting everyone behind him. At this time, Vivi had arrived and was talking to everyone. Only Sanji was in the kitchen preparing supper for everyone. Wind-style great breakthrough. A gust of wind blew away the smoke and dust, revealing a hedgehog with a Kurozumi face. He waved his hand to indicate that everyone was not in danger. You guys go on, it was just a little accident on my part. Everyone turned around helplessly and continued talking. Only Luffy ran over and said with a big smile on his face. Shin, are you playing with something fun? Ah, I'm sorry. Because of the explosion just now, Miss Valentine just opened her eyes, but was kicked by Luffy and fainted again. Credit Sharingan completely hypnosis the bird on his shoulder, he probably understands what the red dot in the soul is. If nothing else, it is devil fruit. Scroll number 2 can separate the abilities of the Esper and can also give this ability to other people, even animals. Moreover, the development level of the original holder can be directly inherited. There is no reason for a bird to explode as soon as he gets the ability. It can only be a move developed by Mr. 5, and the bird accidentally used it after inheriting it. Shin handed the precious experimental materials fainted on his shoulder to Luffy, and at the same time ordered. That's it, don't let it wake up, it will explode. Really? Luffy looked at the bird in his hand with excitement, his eyes filled with 2 words, I want to play. I don't know whether it was intentional or accidental, but Luffy's hand slipped and the bird fell to the ground. Boom. Another explosion sounded, but this time only Vivi looked sideways, while the others had speechless expressions on their faces. You bastard captain, get back here. Sorry. Ads by Bid Gear. Chapter 79 The Lost Devil Fruit and the Little Painter. After driving away the troublesome captain, Shin spent a lot of effort to control the bird again, and at the same time passed Miss Valentine hypnosis, who woke up again. Then he attached the scroll to the bird's body, trying to get back Devil Fruit's ability, but the scroll kept sending a message. The place is full. Only one soul can be absorbed at a time. Because Mr. Five's soul is still inside, can't it be extracted? There was a look of thinking in Shin's eyes, and he placed the scroll on Mr. Five again. If it was determined that Mr. Five only lost his ability and was not in danger of his life, this would be very maneuverable. This means that everyone in the Straw Hats can eat devil fruit as they like, and if they feel it is not suitable, they can always change it to another one. As the scroll glowed with white light, the soul inside returned to Mr. Five's body, but he did not wake up. Shin went up to check his breathing and found that he was still alive. He threw his hands up and slapped him twice, but Mr. Five seemed to have turned into a vegetative state and did not wake up no matter how hard Shin tried. That's weird. Are there any side effects? Not dead, but unable to wake up, the scroll was placed on the bird again, and Shin absorbed its soul. The size of the red dot has not changed, but the bird's soul body is only as big as a palm, so the red dot seems to occupy a particularly large area. The cutting function was activated, and a small scalpel appeared and pierced the bird's soul body. This time Shin could clearly observe that the bird's soul body had not shrunk, but its color appeared more transparent, which gave him some speculation. The process of separating the ability will cause some damage to the soul body. Is that why the body of the explosive man did not wake up after his soul returned? In order to verify the conjecture, Shin put the red dot into the bird's soul body again, and controlled the scalpel to move forward. This time his movements were much rougher, and he even made a special cut on the bird's wing. Just as he guessed, the soul of the bird was so pale that it was almost impossible to see clearly. Shin immediately released the soul back to the body of the bird. Sharingan's control was released, allowing the bird to move freely, but it did not move and lay quietly on the ground. Died. Shin squatted down, took a look, and issued a death notice to the poor little bird. With a look of grief on his face, he clasped his hands together and paid respect to this worthy bird. Let Sanji bake it later, don't let it go to waste. There is still a red dot in the scroll. In this case, can I extract another soul? Shin looked at Mr. Five again, and quickly shook his head. Forget it, you can't catch a person tormenting him. Miss Valentine, who woke up twice and was knocked unconscious, is better material. There should be a red dot representing devil fruit in her soul now. He placed the scroll on Miss Valentine's forehead in the same manner. As the chakra was being transferred, Shin seemed to see a picture. Oh, devil fruit's ability is so overbearing. Shin shook his head helplessly. It was obviously the size of a pea, and a soul could definitely be stuffed into it. He looked at the cactus that Sanji had found. What would happen if he transferred his power to the plant? Just do it. The scroll was placed on the cactus. Shin closed his eyes and controlled the red dot to move towards the cactus. Phew. Shin seemed to hear the sound of objects passing quickly. The cactus did not change at all, but he was sure that there were no red dots in the scroll. What's the situation? Shin picked up the cactus and looked up and down, as if nothing had changed. Then he pulled out a thorn of the cactus and threw it to the ground. The expected explosion didn't happen, it was really just an ordinary cactus thorn. Shin's brows frowned. Could it be that this thing has become a devil fruit? But who can eat prickly pear? He tried to remove the red dot from the cactus, but the scroll was unresponsive. The cactus has a ghost soul. But where is the fruit's power? Move to the bird again. The dead bird has a soul. Could it be Mr. Five? Poor Mr. Five put his head on the scroll again and his soul was extracted, but the result was not optimistic and there were no red spots on Mr. Five's body. After much tossing, Shin finally accepted the reality that he had lost a devil fruit. I originally said that I would give Usopp's hammer the ability of that little girl. Let's talk about it later. With a depressed look on his face, Nobu took out Miss Valentine's ability. He originally planned to put this ability on Usopp's hammer. The ability to freely change the weight is a good match for the hammer. After getting up, Shin was about to go back to see how everyone was discussing, when a sea otter riding a vulture suddenly appeared in front of him, wearing a Madara dot jumpsuit and a pair of sunglasses. Sea Otter took a few pieces of paper and drew something quickly. After drawing, he didn't forget to turn it over and read it. Hey, the painting looks really similar. The painter of Sea Otter is indeed very good. He drew all the members except Sanji, and there is also a portrait of Vivi, but the letter is a bit unsatisfactory. Don't make that bastard green algae look so kind, and make his eyes more fierce. And the one I have, change the color of the eyes, look like I am now, don't forget the 3 tomo. Sea Otter nodded while constantly revising, and the final result made Shin nod with satisfaction. Can you give me these paintings? I didn't expect you to be a little artist. Sea Otter did not hand over the portrait in his hand, but drew another one and handed it to the letter, and then flew away on a vulture. Goodbye. Shin held everyone's portraits in his hand and waved goodbye to the little painter with a smile on his face. The unhappy mood of losing the devil fruit just now was diluted a lot. Did I forget to pay? He walked back while thinking about this problem, and everyone's discussion seemed to have reached an impasse now. Luffy clapped with both feet. Zoro had a look of interest on his face, Usopp's body was trembling, and only Nami looked very impatient and stood up to leave. What's the matter? Shin walked over and pressed Nami down. As if she had found a backbone, she raised her head and started to complain to Shin. Take care of those two idiots, they are going to challenge Shichibukai. Shichibukai? What is that? Don't talk about it yet, I brought you some gifts. With that said, Shin distributed the portraits in his hands to everyone. Nami looked at his own portrait carefully and couldn't help but sigh. The painting is really good. Did you just go painting? No, it was given to me by a young painter. It's very good, it's lifelike. My painting is really bad, how can I be so fierce? Who told you, green algae head, to have such a ferocious face? Look at mine, you look so handsome. That, Mr. Ninja, Vivi's voice came, and there was no longer the embarrassment when she was captured. At this time, Vivi was more like a princess, but the expression on her face was not right, and her tone was full of nervousness. As the little painter you just mentioned, a combination of a sea otter and a vulture. Hey, do you know them too? Can you tell me their address? Next time I will bring 2 fish over as reward. It's over. Ads by Bid Gear. Chapter 82 Devil Fruit. Seeing Vivi's collapsed expression, Shin asked with some confusion. What's wrong? Are they people with abilities? Anyone drawn by them will suffer from heart paralysis and die. That's not true. Vivi took a deep breath, calmed down her emotions and shook her head. They are an unlucky combination in the organization who are responsible for the boss, responsible for punishing agents who fail in missions, and delivering messages to the boss. Shin understood what was going on and couldn't help but said. It's so convenient. I'll try to catch it and keep it next time. Before he could finish his emotion, Nami put his hand gently on Shin's head. With a smile on his face, the navigator asked softly. Why didn't you think about catching them just now? Are you kidding? It's just a sea otter that can draw. I don't like it. As expected of a ninja-sama, you have really high vision. He, it's just average. Shin finally realized that something was wrong, smiled dryly and hid behind Vivi, patted her shoulder hurriedly and asked. Princess Vivi, who is the boss you just mentioned? Please explain to me. Shin escaped temporarily, and Vivi began to tell him the details that he had missed. Vivi is the princess of Alabasta. In recent years, turmoil has occurred in the country, and many people have rioted. Vivi accidentally heard the name of Baroque works. In order to find out the truth about the national riots, Vivi and Ikaram infiltrated here together. Finally, clues were found. The boss of the work company openly said that he wanted to build a utopia, but secretly his purpose was to seize the entire country. The boss behind the scenes is Crocodile, one of the 7 warlords of the sea. If Vivi doesn't return home quickly and make the truth known to the public, the rebel army and the king's army will start a war, and it will be too late to stop it. I probably understand. What is this 7 warlords of the sea? A title. This time it was Nami who gave the answer. He put his hands on his hips and said in a serious tone. The 7 warlords of the sea are recognized by the world government as great pirates. They have catastrophic destructive power and huge combat power that rivals the country. Do you understand? Huge combat power. How much is the bounty? 81 million. That's it. Shin said casually. What a huge combat power. He thought it was 1.965 billion Baileys. Really? How come you all have the same virtue? He. The first opponent entering the Grand Line is Shichibukai, it's so exciting. Shichibukai, I wonder how it feels to chop. Luffy and Zoro are both masters who don't take things too seriously, but Usopp on the side doesn't have the courage. Vivi just said that we should send her back to the country. There is no need to go to war with Shichibukai. By the way, I'll give you back the hammer. Nobu, who was being beaten, struggled to throw the small hammer to Usopp, and the transfer of the ability to the object had proven to be a failure. Hey, it's time to eat. Sanji's shouts came from the restaurant where the party was originally held. He had been in the kitchen preparing dinner for everyone, so he was not drawn by the unlucky combination. Great, eat. Luffy shouted excitedly, rushed to the restaurant, and saved the beaten Shin. Well done, Captain. No problem, Shin. ... Because they had already experienced a banquet before, everyone didn't eat much, except for Luffy and Vivi. Vivi had been locked up in the warehouse for half a day. It could be said that she had nothing to eat all day long, so it was understandable that she would eat more. Did Luffy not attend the previous party? Looking at Luffy who was still devouring his food, Shin asked Usopp next to him a little suspiciously. No, he just can eat it. Sanji came out of the kitchen at this time, holding a patterned fruit with a lead on it. An apple in the kitchen suddenly turned into a devil fruit. Do any of you want to eat it? This is. Shin and Nami came to Sanji in no particular order. Looking at the golden light flashing in Nami's eyes, you knew what Nami wanted to do. A devil fruit can definitely be sold for a lot of money. Oh, Nami-san, consider it a gift on a full moon night, please accept it. Seeing Nami's expression, Sanji immediately understood and knelt down on one knee to present the fruit. Shin didn't stop him, he just reminded him not to eat it yet, and then looked at Sanji. Sexy chef, when did this devil fruit appear? About 10 minutes ago, why did you ask this? Sanji recalled a little bit. At that time, he was about to cut an apple and put it in the soup, when he happened to see the apple gradually deforming and growing patterns. It's very useful. Shin eagerly got into the kitchen, found the bag where the fruit was placed, and took out an apple. But when he took out the scroll, he was a little hesitant. If it was just a coincidence, wouldn't the ability in the scroll be lost again? But the timing was too much of a coincidence, and the weight-changing fruit in his hand wasn't very powerful, so Shin made up his mind. The scroll is placed on the apple, and as the chakra is transported, the red dots inside are transferred to the apple. The shape of the apple also gradually changed. The red peel began to turn pink, the round body became flat from top to bottom, and tentacle-like patterns appeared on the body. It's really done. Looking at the fruit in front of him, Shin's heart was full of surprises. The scroll could only hold one ability. Originally, he was worried about how to save it if he encountered other abilities in the future. He was even planning to catch a few small animals to use as carriers of his abilities, but he didn't expect that he could still return to the devil fruit form now. Holding this pink fruit, Shin walked out of the kitchen with satisfaction. As soon as he reached the door, he couldn't help but feel jealous. Ahem, everyone is looking at me, look at me, look at me. I have an announcement. As he spoke, Shin raised the devil fruit in his hand. From now on, Mr. Nobu will pay for the devil fruit. Open it up and eat it. If you are not satisfied after eating it, you can eat more until you are satisfied. Everyone looked at the devil fruit in Shin's hand and were speechless, thinking that it was something Shin had obtained before. Nami and Sanji opened their mouths in shock. After all, they had just watched the letter walk into the kitchen empty-handed. In just a moment, a devil fruit appeared. Shin held his head high and walked to his previous position with wealthy steps, and curiously asked Luffy. Don't you usually grab the food you see and eat it? Are you so honest this time? Luffy murmured, showing a look of disgust. That stuff tastes really bad, I don't want to eat a second one. When Shin sat back down, Vivi opposite asked her question. Well, Mr. Ninja, where did this fruit come from? I just saw you walking into the kitchen empty-handed. Of course, if this involves your privacy, you don't have to answer. I'm just asking. For a princess of a country, one devil fruit may not be very attractive to her, but if there is a way to obtain devil fruit in bulk, it would be of infinite value. Shin also understood this truth, pushed away Nami's head, played with the fruit in his hand, and showed a Philistine smile on his face. Want to know? 20 million. Ads by Bid Gear.